G'day and welcome to On The Esky, a podcast where we like to wrap up the week that was in the wide world of sport, smash a few Mark Stubby Taylors and dribble on about nothing really in particular.
Sports.
The sports teams.
General theme of sports.
Sports teams playing against the other sports teams. But alas, it has been a big week in sport. The NRL and AFL finals pictures are starting to take shape. We think that the top 8 has been probably decided in the NRL, and I think there's 9 teams alive in the AFL. Manchester United, one of the richest football clubs in the world, early trouble after 2 games in the EPL, plus Barca getting away with some of their dodgy books. The NFL is back, baby, sort of, preseason. Not many starters, not too many injuries,
really
touch wood, through week 1 of the preseason, plus Sean's NFL fantasy files. We've already looked at quarterbacks. We've already looked at running backs. We've already looked at rookies. Now we're going to have a look at the wide receivers. Check out Sean's insight into who you should draft and avoid in the wide receiver group for 2022, plus a final round where we will preview the big UFC 278 for next week. A little bit of F1 and fight news chat. Please remember, we have timestamps. You can skip to the sports that you like, or if you're nuts about all things, just all sports, listen to the whole thing. We do have some socials that you can consider subscribing to. We like to start off the show by shouting a beer. Monks, this bloke's got 100 million reasons to have a beer. Who are you shouting? And run us through the story, please.
So this week I'm going to shout Cam Smith a beer. So by all accounts, rumoured to be making the switch across to the Saudi-led Live Golf Series. So rumours are that he's reportedly going to sign a contract for upwards of $143 million.
AUDs,
yeah.
About 100 million US.
Yep. Crazy money. So
fucking lot of money.
I was going to ask, what's his current price money at?
I was having a look at this the other day.
I don't think it's 100 million.
No, it's not. I think his total career might be about 16 mil in prize money. I'll chase that. I'll chase that one up.
That's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, but another big scalp for the PGA.
That's it.
Yeah, losing the most recent major winner, and a big loss for Australian golf fans of regular PGA golf.
It might be a maybe, because I think there's been a lot of legal action happening where they're trying to stay the ban that the PGA has put on them.
So there's a few of those fringe players in the Live who have been dropped since other players have moved across, and they're trying to get back into the PGA, but PGA said no, and I think they're trying to get a restraining order against the PGA.
Yeah, a restraining order.
Yeah. But the judge who I guess was presiding over the hearing said, look, it's impossible. You moved across to Live because you were getting paid all of this money, which you would have earned more, which you are earning more than if you were in the PGA. So
don't come crawling back.
Exactly.
Don't come crawling back here.
You made your bed, and now you're going to sleep in it.
Yeah, but there's also stories floating out as well that some of those golfers, I like those, bottom tier that have been falling out, haven't been getting paid or paid as much as they thought they'd be getting.
Saudi oil tycoons not coming through on their money. Yeah, exactly. I don't believe it. I do not believe it. Very Barcelona-esque as well. We'll talk about them a little bit later in the pod. Cam Smith's career earnings, 24.7 mil. So if he does sign that contract, that's 4 times his career earnings. But
just for showing up. So
it's wild, and golf fans have probably traditional golf fans have probably got to be worried about the impact that the Live Golf Tournament and the big money thrown around is having, scalping all these players. Tiger Woods famously, saying no to $700 million to go across.
The rumours was it could have been as high as 900. It was almost $1 billion.
That is a crazy, obscene amount of money, and good on Tiger, I guess, for saying no to it. But also, if he, if he signed that, Tiger Woods in principles. How good. The GOAT or arguable GOAT of golf saying no to that cash money. We like to talk about rugby league.
The difference, I guess, for Tiger is he's probably got all those zeros in his bank account.
Already established. But in my 32 years on this planet, I've tended to notice that the more zeros people have in their bank account, generally the more they want. For whatever reason that might be. It might be one of those 7 deadly sins. I'm not sure. However, just to put that in rugby league terms, we're going to talk rugby league obviously in just a second. I did see someone had crunched the numbers. If Tiger had taken the 700 million, he could have paid every single NRL's player's salary, 16 clubs for 5 years.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
That's a fucking lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
But Cam Smith, 1/7 of it. Good on him. You can't really, hate the bloke for succumbing to that amount of money getting thrown his way. But it will be interesting to see how it plays out, given not all these guys are reportedly getting what they the money that they signed for and the PGA ramifications of it all.
Well, you talk about that. So as this news comes out, he's been copping a lot of heat from a lot of the spectators at the Memphis. At the moment, so
you sell out.
Exactly,
man.
And by all accounts, I mean,
probably
pretty
for $100 million.
Wouldn't you do it?
Yeah. It's pretty hard to stand on your.
He'd suck a bag of dicks for that kind of money.
For $100 million, the biggest bag. And look, if that's your cup of tea and you like doing that for free, hats off to you as well. Hats off to you.
And probably adding to the story as well. Probably putting the curse on him now. But if he walks away winning the Memphis, he's going to be world number one. As well. So. That's your biggest defector across the live. So
it's unprecedented times in the golf world.
Final question on golf is the live to golf what T20 is to cricket?
Yes and no. I think the best cricket analogy would have been World Series cricket back in the day.
Okay.
Because World Series cricket was literally divergent. Like it was. They'd signed players and Kerry Packer and the money behind it was taking players away from whereas T20 cricket, I guess you can make an argument. We'll talk about in a minute, this UAE league that's coming up and that will be
the 100 as well.
Then that'll be competing with Big Bash, but I don't think it's the perfect analogy. It's more like a World Series cricket or even Super League, ARL kind of feud where it's literally two different competitions. There's no interchangeability.
You can't play in one and
exactly. But having said that, it's that obviously on steroids. It's just an unprecedented amount of money being thrown around. It's a strange time in golf and in the world with the amount of zeros that are getting thrown around. But we'll see how it all plays out. A few of the boys were saying, well, if Australia got a live golf tournament, say it's one of the nice courses down in Melbourne or something, would you go to it? And I was thinking, probably, like if it actually, came down under and we were able to experience, some of it firsthand, maybe you would change your tune a little bit. But it's a lot of money and it's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out over the next few years.
Just the sustainability of paying all these players this much amount of money. Like I don't know what revenue they're generating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a way to wash some money. outrageous claims here. Jason Bateman of Ozark fame, of washing money fame. Can you get into my DMs and let me know? I'm sure Jason Bateman is listening right now, but it's an interesting point. Yeah, where does all this money come from? It doesn't seem like a sustainable business model.
No.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's Monkey's shout of beer. A long shout of beer, but
we covered off.
Generated some good
covered
discussion.
a whole segment. Yeah,
indeed. I'll keep mine short and sweet. It did happen last week, but Josh J. Kennedy of West Coast Eagles fame did the West Coast Eagles or Carlton win the Chris Judd, Josh Kennedy fame chat. He kicked 8 goals in his last game last week. The West Coast Eagles had to order more merchandise to sell Josh Kennedy merchandise during the week. All the players were warming up in a Josh Kennedy shirt before the game, and he went out and kicked 8. A great way to finish his career. I'm sure he's knocked a few back. A few of the West End. What am I talking about? West End's. A few emu exports, if you will. During the week, and congratulations on a stellar career, Joshua J. Kennedy. We might be talking a little bit about Joshua P. Kennedy later in the show. Sean, shouting a goat here. Who you got?
Serena Williams. Announced through Vogue, I believe, an article in that. She did a photo shoot for the cover that she's going to retire after the US Open, which begins later this month, which would be her 21st attempt or go around in that tournament. She's. I think the word she used is not retiring, but evolving, like transitioning into the next stage of her life. Which is
next Pokemon. She's going into the next Pokemon.
Yeah. It's not even my final form. So
War Turtle has entered the chat. That is some fucking nerdy shit right there.
But
I can go one further. Are we going to call Serena Williams a Blastoise? Or we won't go that far. Is she the GOAT of women's tennis, though? Because she won't catch Navratilova, I don't believe. I think Navratilova has more Grand Slams.
Yes. By
Definitely in the conversation.
2 or 1?
Monks will chase that up down the end. I think it's 2.
But,
I feel like it's 2 off the top of the head.
Yeah. But for modern tennis since the 90s.
And it's not Navratilova, it's Margaret Court.
Margaret Court, yes, the Australian. I was trying to figure out how you're figuring this out. But anyway.
She got cancelled, bro. She got cancelled in my mind.
Yeah. So that probably excludes her, from GOAT chat. So
the caveat. The caveat. She's old. She's old and believes in different things to what we believe these days.
Yes. But anyway, back to Serena.
Let's steer it away from the semi-political chat.
23 Grand Slam singles.
Keep politics out of short
for her. And we'll hang it up after dominating the last 2 decades worth of tennis.
Pretty much the whole time that we've been following tennis. I can remember as a youngster, people like Martina Hingis being on top of the female tennis world, but essentially for the last 20 years, it's been the Serena Williams show. Monks, did you get those numbers?
Yes, the Margaret Court does have 24. Serena is on 23.
Just the one. Just
one off.
She has 22.
Williams hasn't had a great year though so far. With what was that first round exit?
How old is she? She must be 38, 39.
Yeah, mid 30s.
Had 1 or 2 kids. A fair few. Two.
But either way, I think she had more business
40.
deals.
40,
fair.
Yeah.
More business deals, I think, in her future.
Well, enjoy the beer from down under Serena Williams. A man who has been enjoying his beers. These ones are coming from the shoe variety. The Australian shoey has sort of taken over the world in recent years. Daniel Ricciardo of F1 fame. Bam Shui Vasa. In the UFC likes drinking beers out of shoes, and this man who likes to drink beer out of a shoe, New Zealand Warriors fan Kaylee Gibbons, aka Roger Shuivasa Sheck, has been banned for life from Mount Smart Stadium, the home of the New Zealand Warriors, for drinking beer out of a shoe to celebrate Warriors tries, and apparently is quite good friends with Stacey Jones and some of the Warriors, inner circle. He often sits in front of the box, hence getting on TV and being able to delete a few shoeies.
Yep.
And they've come out and said, no, that's not promoting what we're all about. You're getting the boot here, Kaylee Gibbons. There, I did see there's been a petition started.
Had over 5,000 sigs.
5,000,
already.
So when I looked at it this morning, I heard 2,500. So obviously, it's growing exponentially. Building. A lot of people getting on the Save Shuivasa Sheck train. Check that out if you're interested in signing the petition to keep him alive and in Mount Smart Stadium sculling beer out of a shoe.
And
thoughts?
We're talking about the mop here, and I think it's a fair mop because you know how this chat went down. Channel Win or Foxtel has gone to them and gone, hey, every time we cross to the Warriors coach's box, this dude's doing shoeies. We're family-friendly programming.
It's bad for our image,
exactly.
yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, so, the Warriors have gotten the call on that, fine, we'll ban him, and they've banned him from that.
Blah, blah, blah. We used to be sponsored by cigarettes, now we get sponsored by alcohol
and gambling.
And gambling companies. But you drink a beer out of a shoe and you're fucking out of here, son.
Yeah, live on TV. It was like,
that's where we draw the line. That is where we draw the line.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a bit ridiculous, isn't it?
So I think it's a huge fair mop in that regards for the NRL for another week.
Few mops recently for the NRL from our show. Yeah, we might have to count up the mops. Be right if you can just get through the first 10 minutes of this show. Times about 50. We might be able to give you the yearly mop update.
Yeah, that's it. Pretty crazy that they're just giving him a life ban.
Life ban?
Hey, guy, calm down.
Yeah, slap on the wrist.
Can you sit over here instead so you're not on the camera?
Or, 1 week ban, Ricky Stewart fame, you week out a dog.
Have a chat to him, but...
Yeah, that's right.
Nope. Life ban. The equivalent of throwing a water bottle at a referee, so...
Yeah, you got to do some bad shit to get life bans. Like English hooliganism kind of shit,
Yeah.
He's just a man just drinking beer out of a shoe.
Out of a shoe, yeah.
Anyways,
Australian.
Hopefully, or a New Zealander in this case.
Chris Rock's at the Swans game. There you go.
There you go. Hopefully he gets his life ban lifted, or the Court of Public Appeal kind of stands up for him and says, "Let the man drink out of a shoe."
Yep, agree.
All right, from a little bit of light-hearted news to some heavy kind of news. The rugby league world was rocked this week at the shock passing of Paul Green at the young age of 49. Unfortunately, taking his own life on Thursday. Yep. Didn't really know how to react to this one. When the news comes through that that it is suicide, it's so sad. But let's try and remember him and go over his career accolades. What were your initial thoughts, Sean? You're a Queensland fan. He's been a Maroons coach. Was it a bit of disbelief, bit of shock?
Yeah, well, exactly. A bit of disbelief, shock. Like, what happens? He's been in conversation for a lot of different gigs all around the place. Yep. So, a long time legend, essentially. Probably, was a great football player, but did more, I think, as a coach post that. So, and he'd coached at almost every level. So, for a guy that had been in and around rugby league for 30 years, it's a bit of a shock to the system. And especially for the Queensland lads, a lot of those guys well respected. He was a Queensland coach. He was Cowboys coach. A lot of think of some of the immortals like JT and what that kind of meant to them. And it sounded, by all accounts, the Cowboys themselves were devastated, but then a lot of Queensland boys as well were also just as gutted from that kind of news. An outpouring across the league, minute silence in every game. It's just been a rough week all around in that regard.
I think the reaction from the league was nice. There were tributes aplenty. Fox Sports were pretty quick into trying to paying their respect, and like you mentioned, the minute silence and the black armbands around the league this week. But unfortunately, it doesn't bring him back. You can just try to remember the man that he was. He did play 162 NRL games, 95 for the Sharks, 35 for the Cowboys, and also some stints at the Roosters, Eels, and Broncos. But what he will be remembered for most, you would think, is coaching the Cowboys to their first and only premiership back in 2015. One of the great grand finals. You remember the Ben Hunt dropping of the football, the crazy sideline kick from JT, wheeling it back, and then the field goal to finish it off. As a neutral viewer in that one, who probably wanted the Cowboys to win. No offense to our Broncos listeners, but they'd been there, done that, and the Cowboys had never won one. It was a very exciting grand final, and it will be immortalised with the scenes of everyone getting around JT and swamping him, and Paul Green celebrating up in the box back in 2015. Did take them back to the big dance in 2018. Unfortunately, the Melbourne Storm way too good in that one. Something that I didn't know, and these little things that kind of come to fruition, unfortunately, often in tragic circumstances, is who Paul Green was outside of footy. And a brilliant man, a Harvard Business School graduate. So I think he must have done that via correspondence, and a fixed wing, so plane and helicopter pilot himself. The man must have had a fair bit, going on between the ears to be able to achieve that on top of all his footballing accolades, and some reports coming out that he just wasn't really coping without football. I think
that's, we can only summarise, speculate like how he was feeling, but it sounds like a lot without football, without a dedicated gig, the grind of probably working 80 hours a week doing NRL coaching, he just lost his way a little bit, and just the demons got the best of him, unfortunately.
It's so sad, and
exactly.
The people that miss out most are his wife Amanda, his two young kids, Jed and Emerson. Obviously our thoughts and condolences go to them. We start talking. We've started talking in the last sort of 5, maybe 10 years about mental health and the importance of speaking up. It ain't weak to speak. Are you okay? But it's maybe not that simple either, because it seemed like Paul Green was going okay. You know, he was there for his son's birthday. I think out at Dream World the day before. It's fucking tragic. But do what do what you can do in talking about it, in checking in on your mates, in speaking up if you are going through troubles. That's all we can that we can take out of it as rugby league fans and as men, I guess.
Yeah, well, there's two kind of points that came out of this. Is I think from the whole Manly stuff a couple of weeks ago, doing a mental health awareness round in the NRL was probably useful. But I think Nico Hines covered it the best in his press conference the other day. It's are you okay day is coming up in a couple of weeks, but asking the question, are you okay, every day is kind of what we you need to kind of be focusing on. Get around your lads, get around your mates, because not everyone has someone they can talk to.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's not going to prevent all of this. I don't think. Unfortunately, it's a kind of a blight on the human condition.
We talk about NRL as a gladiator sport. We've talked about like how it's it's mono, etc. But sometimes, you got to open those doors and let people in.
Exactly, and that's all that we can do.
Yeah.
But anyways, unfortunately, a family's lost a husband and a father, and players have lost a coach, and mates have lost a mate. So, just wishing anyone that was personally affected by it all the best moving forward. Vale, Paul Graham. Okay, we do have a round of footy to discuss, some interesting results. I think no less interesting than Thursday night's result between the Melbourne Storm and the Penrith Panthers. The Storm shutting out Penrith.
There's 2 donuts this week.
16 zip. Yeah, 2 donuts and 2 top 8 teams putting up donuts. James Fisher-Harris didn't play in this one, was suspended for 2 games. Jerome Hughes missed out for the Storm. Did you catch this?
I didn't catch this, but interesting start. I don't think anyone that's been held to nil has won a grand final.
I remember that one getting thrown around last year because South got held to zip a fair few times last year, also didn't win the grand final. However, is there a caveat in that if both your starting 6 and 7 are missing? I'm not sure, but
probably.
It's a pretty interesting start. There's a lot of years of history in this game, and the Panthers getting shut out on Thursday night would maybe be sounding a few alarm bells around the Penrith camp. They have lost 2 from their last 3 after starting absolutely on fire. And again, it seems like every week we talk about it. The Cam Munster show just keeps rolling. 196 run meters, 9 tackle busts, and defensively 2 tries.
He played 1 again?
He played 6. He was doing a little bit of mind games at the start because Nick Meaney was named at 1. They asked him, "Where are you playing?" He said, "I'm playing 1," and then everyone was kind of like, "What's going on here?" He played 6. He gets a lot of the footy either way, and young Cooper Johns played 7. Brandon Smith, the cheese after the game, had one of the biggest backhanded compliments you'll ever get in your sporting career. He said he's thick as pig shit, referring to his mental capacity, I guess. Yep. But he is footy smart, and he's definitely showing
genius on the field.
Yeah, genius on the field was the words that he provided. And look, he's a footy player, so he needs to be a genius out on the field. I think it's a no-brainer for who wears the 6 for the Kangaroos in the World Cup upcoming, and arguably the best player in the league getting around at the moment, Cam Munster.
Yeah, and the Storm want to try and get him on a deal under $1 million.
You got to pay that, man. I think you got to pay that, man.
Yeah, I think the last couple of weeks have kind of proven yet again that you're going to have to, up that, get that into a 6 euros kind of range. That's where Munster needs to be paid over $1 million.
What he's worth. That's what he's worth.
Exactly. But I think for this game, Penrith, backing into the finals with the Storm of kind of starting to hit their straps a little bit, right when they need to. So finding form, and unsurprising, both Melbourne and the Roosters are finding form as we lead into the finals.
These teams that have been good for, it seems like our whole time following rugby league are good yet again. Mm-hmm. 2 teams that aren't that good, but we'll cover the game quickly. The Warriors smashed the Bulldogs 42-16.
I'm surprised the Bulldogs got smacked so much in this one. They had been better.
They had been improved, but the Warriors were just way too good. I think this is their second win. I think back home, obviously that's going to boost them. And their shoey smashing fans out there to support them. Adam Fanua-Blake was unreal. 200 run meters, 6 tackle busts, and a meat pie. It was the Warriors' most points in a game since 2016. But probably the biggest news is the Bulldogs have got a long-term coach. This broke today, did it, Sean? Did you catch the story around Cam Serraldo?
No, not much in the story. Just that it's been announced that he's got a 5-year deal with the Bulldogs going forward. So it's been alluded to. He had dinner with Gus and a few of the power brokers and Bulldogs. Was caught in the cafe in Canterbury multiple times. So it was happening. It's just when they were going to announce it and for how long. And they've finally made that announcement, and he's gotten a 5-year deal, which give him time, I guess, to work with Gus and rebuild that club, I think is what they're at. Got some pieces there, but they're going to need to fill a large part of the roster up. Don't see them turning into a top 8 side next year, but then you look at what the Cowboys in Brisbane did after a year. It's doable. You just got to find the right person.
It is doable. Cameron Serraldo, there's been a lot of speculation as to who would try to sign him, with a few teams looking for coaches. He's been a long-term assistant to Ivan Cleary in the Penrith system there.
So that's 2 Penrith assistants going to new head coaching jobs. So there'll be some spare space back there at Penrith. So whether Trent Barrett maybe gets his whole job back. There's been lots of rumours about that. So, we'll have to see.
Good news for Doggies fans, I think.
They've got some certainty going forward.
The late game Friday night, Souths smacked the Parramatta Eels 26-0. The Parramatta enigma continues. They're a horrible team to try and tip or punt on. We were just speaking, just a few weeks ago about them knocking off Penrith.
The Storm are the only team outside of the Eels to beat Penrith this year. So
and then they dish up this. It must be hard being a Parramatta fan, I'll tell you that much. Outside of losing, grand finals in the noughties and not winning anything since the 80s, just the unpredictability of which Parramatta team is going to show up on the weekend must be frustrating. Coming from a Dragons fan.
I'd rather be consistently shit.
That's right. We ain't going to go out and beat Penrith anytime. No expectation.
At least we know we're not winning games.
Exactly right. It would be frustrating, I think, when you see what the ceiling is and what they dish up some weeks. That said, South were very good. Cam Murray, Latrell, Cookie, the usual suspects doing a good job there for South Sydney. And Alex Johnson watch continues. He scored 2 in this one. He goes to 25 on the season, 3 games left. He did score 30 tries last year. No player has ever scored 30 or more tries twice. So if he's able to jag 5 in the last 3 games, would be the first person to ever do that. And he did surpass Matt Singh and Hazem El Masri to go 8th of all time this week. We've spoken a lot about Alex Johnson, but he keeps scoring tries, so let's speak a little bit more about him. We were looking at the career top try scorers through the NRL pre-show. By our calculations, he may finish in the top 5 this year and will probably, if he doesn't get hurt next year, finish the season second.
Do you have that in front of you there, James?
Yeah.
So say he gets 5 more, where does he finish up?
So if he gets 5 more, he comes in at 5th.
Yeah. So if he hits his 30, then yes, he'll be 5th overall. Next year, probably a task to be 1, but he could very well be 2nd.
Yeah, I don't think he goes 1 next year because Ken Irvine is 22 ahead of Billy Slater. We were talking pre-show about how many Ken Irvine was ahead of Billy Slater.
But definitely within range in 2 years.
Definitely within range in 2 years.
3.
And next year could probably go to number 2 and surpass Billy Slater without injury.
Yes, but he's 33, I think.
No, I don't think he's that old. I think we've looked at this before.
Ooh, James, check the age there. You've got him right in front of you.
I think he's like 30.
Yeah, well, I think he's got some legs in him. What's the age?
27.
27. Done. He's going to get 400 at this rate.
Give it to him now.
Yeah, if he plays 6 more years, and what's that? That's 150 more tries he could score.
Possibly, but
it's crazy.
quick maths.
Yeah, he could do 300. if he can keeps this form going and makes a first grade squad until he's
God
33.
God forbid any serious injury, but it's pretty much looking like Alex Johnson will be the leading try scorer of all time at the rate that he's going.
Yeah. And potentially with a very big lead on top of that.
Indeed. South, what do we think of them? Are they the real deal? They kind of like the Chooks seem to be getting good at the right time. Obviously, Latrell being back for 5-6 weeks.
I think
that's a lot.
That's the answer. They're basically a carbon copy of Manly, where Manly and Turbo, they are different beasts. We're same with South and Latrell. So if Latrell's on fire on all cylinders, then they'll win a lot of games. Probably won't be able to grind out the tough games at the back end of the season against, say, Melbourne and Penrith, but they will potentially be there in the conversation yet again. Getting knocked out in the semi-finals again, that's very, very likely for these guys.
Or losing to Jeff.
Yeah.
The way it stands, South are 5th, the Chooks are 8th. They play each other in a few weeks' time as well in the unveiling of the new Allianz Stadium. So by, depending on a few results, they could be playing back-to-back in round 25 and in the first week of the finals. Speaking of the Chooks, they beat the Cowboys 32-18 in James Tedesco's 200th game. His 110th for the Chooks, 90 for the Tigers beforehand. Poor Tigers. The list of players that are really good that they lost is long. Roosters looking very good. They've won 5 on the trot now. They play the Tigers next week. You'd imagine they win that one. And then Storm and Souths to finish out. So I think that'll be the litmus test, those last 2 weeks. Some really good games. That'll give us a good indication as to what they might be able to offer up from, 8th or 7th leading into the finals. Some good news for the Titans. They signed Sam Verrills on a 2-year deal. He was actually excellent last night, scored a double and did very well in the fantasy Supercoach realm. What are our thoughts around the Roosters? I think we spoke last week about them getting hot at the right time, probably not too much more to add.
Yeah, we talked pre-potty about Matt Lodge, etc.
He's been good, hasn't he?
Yeah, been good. We mentioned with the Storm a minute ago, they've just hit their straps at the right time. They're well coached. They'll go into that. They'll probably finish 8th or maybe 7th if they get some good results there. But if they show well in those 2 games, as you mentioned, against other top 8 squads, then they'll be primed to make a run, and they've got a good side. They've got Teddy in there. They've got healthy at the right kind of time. There's not much more you can say about this. And in this game, going up the Cowboys, you wouldn't expect Cowboys to win this after the week they've had. They tried, but I think they were a bit cooked up there, unfortunately.
They still sit in second, just ahead of the Cronulla Sharks, who made pretty light work of the Tigers in Tamworth, winning 36-12. Connor Tracy, who copped that high shot from Tarek Sims, sat this one out, just HIA protocols, but I think he's okay. Avoided, any broken jaws or serious concussion. We talk week in, week out about Cam Munster being excellent. This bloke is excellent week in, week out in Nico Hines, 223 run meters, 6 goals and a try assist. And I think, as you alluded to earlier in the pod, speaking out, trying to get that conversation around mental health, becoming a daily kind of thing.
Nico Hines is the kind of guys you want in football, and to make as the face, get them around and all over the place. He's just a great lad.
A good footballer, sneaky hot. I was throwing it past the wife. She doesn't normally like the long hair, but she could sort of get on the sort of semi
kind of like
homoerotic kind of state that I was getting in watching Nico Hines play, and also quite well spoken and articulate and thoughtful man.
Does he come across as the surfer dude with a little bit of bogan, maybe?
Yeah, just I don't know. There's something about it. There's just something about him, and the hair. Hair. Yeah, he looks like he could be dropping into big barrel, fucking hit the lip, whooper, or he could be carving up professional rugby league teams. Either or. Maybe in a third life, some kind of home and away star. He just has that allure to him. He has that allure. Hot boy Nico Hines vibes. He's having an excellent season, and will go close to winning the Dally M this year.
Yeah. Do you think it's between him and Adam Reynolds for Buyer of the Year?
Oh, good question. I think it's Hines. And Reynolds been good, don't get me wrong, but the ascendancy, the whole, he's in Melbourne, he's only good because he's in the Melbourne system.
Second year.
He's got to change position, seven's different, there was a lot of that kind of chat at the start of the year. No, I think he's cemented himself as Buyer of the Year.
Yeah.
Tigers, they will be hoping that Isaiah Papali'i might be their buy of the year next year. There's a lot of talks around backflips, Daly Cherry Evans to Gold Coast Titans kind of vibes that never eventuated. Brad Arthur said obviously he wants him to stay at the Eels. There was some rumours about maybe returning to the Warriors, but apparently that his manager spoke with Tim Sheens, who will obviously be back coaching the Tigers next year, and the manager says he will honour his 3-year, $1.9 million deal. He has been in good form for Para this year, and Tigers fans will be hoping that there's no backflips involved here.
Yeah, and he came out during the week that, when I negotiated that contract, it was with Maguire, so it was like, things have changed. But hopefully, talking to Tim Sheens, talking to Benji, etc., seeing what they're setting up there, he wants to be a part of it. He obviously went there for a reason, and though Maguire might have been a big part of it, maybe there's you can see that the others they've got something there. Maybe they can build off that. We'll see. He's got a big deal there otherwise. Yeah, yep. It's a lot of money to say no to. Again, we're going back to Cam Smith at the top of the conversation. Not quite $100 million decision to make, but that's a lot of money for an edge back rower that last year was on a minimum contract pretty much. So his ascendancy in the last few years has been rapid, and Tigers fans will definitely be hoping that they can jag him next year. No backflips, but basic, just pin drop straight into the pool, foot first, no flips involved. That's where my mind is at times. Okay, Brisbane Broncos, they beat Newcastle last night 28-10. I was out to dinner. Shout out Pomegranate, fancy restaurant. Took the month-old kid out there. I thought, oh, God, I'm going to have a month-old screaming, all these posh people sitting around thinking, why the fuck you bring your stupid kid here, ruining my red wine and degustation. And she was actually well-behaved, nice night. However, I missed this game, but Sean, you caught a bit of it? A little bit of it, but overall, nothing really to write home. Knights are dreadful.
Yep.
Ponga looks like ruled out for the rest of the year.
I think that's confirmed. Yeah, that's confirmed. Yeah, the question around him is, will he be available for the World Cup?
Yeah, I think they may just shut him down.
And back to that, Turbo was on a podcast, Tommy Turbo, that is, during the week, and also ruled himself out for the World Cup, because there was a little bit of chat around, shoulders. He did it so early in the year. How his rehab's going? Will he want to play in the World Cup? No, he officially will be out. Yeah,
Monks, do you want to confirm for us as well? Junior Paulo made his announcement this week, and I don't think he picked Australia.
Defections?
Yes, more defections.
They're dangerous, these defections, man, especially in the middle forwards department. We spoke about Papali'i of the Josh variety committing to Samoa for the World Cup. Has Junior Paulo
by all accounts, he will be playing for Samoa.
They're going to have a pretty good pack. That's before. They're going to have a pretty good pack. Now, I think there's two other big bopper fellas of Samoan heritage that would probably play for the Kangaroos in Payne Haas and Big Tino Fa'asasua Mala'awe. It's going to be interesting. They've already dragged two big names. If those two go, that you'd have to say that's the best pack in this World Cup. Do they have the spine to match? Well, that's obviously going to be the big question. Samoa,
they'll have good go forward. So
definitely scary. Fuck imagine that. Imagine Papali and Paulo confirmed and possibly others. It'll be interesting to see.
Get both New South Wales and Queensland forwards. That's crazy.
It's good. And again, we speak about it every week, but I think it's
good for footy.
I think it's good for the international game. I think it makes the World Cup a lot more interesting.
Definitely.
So I'm not going to be a fossil that sits on their Fox Sports job and condemns these players for doing it. It's their heritage, so hats off to them. I think it makes for better viewing in the World Cup.
Yeah, to finish up on this game with the Knights, Cobbo got a hattie. That brought him up to 15 tries for the season.
Not many games back since Origin, two or three, I think, since that.
I think this might even be his second.
Second, perhaps since that brutal knockout in State of Origin. He's an excellent player, and speaking of Australian selections, I think he'll be definitely there or thereabouts for when they name that squad.
And Corey Oates got his 19th for the season.
Second.
To go to second, yes, but he's
a measly 6 behind. A measly 6 behind Alex Johnson. All right, boys, the game that we were watching here. Sunday,
why we were a little late.
Yep.
Sunday afternoon. Yeah, that's why we're kicking off around about 4 o'clock time slot here, Australian Eastern Standard Time. The heavyweight Canberra Raiders going up against the heavyweight St George Illawarra Dragons.
Huge finals implication this game.
Yeah, if the Chooks drop a few, perhaps. But it was kind of do or die. I think we can, as a Dragons fan, definitely put a line through them playing finals footy after this loss. It was an entertaining game in terms of the finish, the last few minutes. Unbelievable. The standard was pretty poor. There was a lot of drop ball, reserve grade-esque. But the weather, cold, windy.
A little wet.
Yeah, just, mid-August tings in the nation's capital.
Yeah, but overall, the structures, etc., was pretty average from both squads.
Yeah,
so,
ordinary.
Even if the Raiders, their season's still alive, and if they do sneak into the 8, I don't think, like we've been talking about, they're going to worry anyone above them in the top 8 there. So, yeah.
Ricky Stewart ended up getting a $25,000 fine and a week suspension for his weak gutted dogs.
I think that takes his total up to about 150K.
Yeah, that's right. The most fined coach in NRL history. Could not be in contact with the Raiders this week. They kind of had a coaching committee that took them through the game, and lots of good chat in group chats this week, I'm sure.
Weak gutted dogs.
Yeah, one of my group chats is called Weak Gutted Dogs, and if anyone did any faux pas in that group chat during the week, they were, fairly or unfairly named a weak gutted dog by the other 20 odd lads in the chat. So thank you, Ricky, at least for bringing that into the Australian vernacular. Yes. Nick Kotrick missed this game through suspension. Tarek Sims did accept that 4-game suspension. We were talking about that last week on the pod. So he's done as a Dragon, and the NRL did admit it should have been a send-off. I want to give some props to your boy, Xavier Savage. I don't watch all the Raiders games every week, I suppose, being, a Canberra-based person. I thought he was really good, especially in the first half today. Set up a few tries.
From what I saw, I thought this was Savage's best game of the season so far. So,
So Raiders fans will have a lot to look forward to, I think, with Savage, being their long-term one moving forward. But yeah, as we said, there were finals implications involved in this game, but the way that it eventuated, I don't think either of these teams are bothering anyone come September.
Yep. To finish up there, the Titans are currently taking on Manly. They're in front 20-12.
The Titans are leading Manly.
Yes, Manly continuing their terrible form since Pride Week. So
if they lose to the team that's coming last, that has won, I think, 3 games of football this year, maybe 4. Yeah, I think you can definitely, with confidence, say that it's the Dragons barbecue moment of this season, with the Pride jersey and the fallout and the media scrutiny and the rest of it. And Tom Tavoyevich not being available, but it's definitely derailed their season, hasn't it?
Yeah, big time. And still reports floating around that there's a big fracture in the club now between the 2 different groups that were involved.
Should Hasler be worried at all?
There's been chat, but it's not his fault.
It's not his fault.
He'll probably get scapegoated if the management really want to do it to him.
I hope they don't, and
they shouldn't.
And they shouldn't. Well, they did feed him and DCE to the Wolves to face the media scrutiny a few weeks ago. And Des, was kind of returning serve, saying, that's a question for management. That should be a question for management. And fair enough too. That he's hired to be a rugby league coach. Yes. He's not hired there, for his political or religious
not
views.
Their PR person.
Exactly, or PR or handling of issues of the 21st century. He's hired there to coach footy, and I think they did do him a disservice in the way that he was treated. I don't think Des is in any dramas whatsoever, and next year with a healthy Tom Trbojevic, it'll be interesting to see what Manly can dish up. But definitely put cracks in their playing group. I think that the results on field are obvious and has pretty much undone their season. So make of that of you will. And whatever side of the fence that you sit on, I think we can all agree that it really hurt Manly's, chances to play finals football. The whole Pride jersey debacle.
Yeah, agree. You want to talk some rugby?
Yeah,
surprisingly.
Just briefly, there is international rugby going on, and unfortunately for Wallabies fans, they suffered their worst ever loss to Argentina overnight, over in Argentina. A record in Argentina is not great. Me as a very casual rugby union fan, pretty much only interested, essentially speaking for myself, in the international game and World Cups and the rest of it. I kind of thought Argentina, former minnows and kind of have been getting gradually better. We don't have a great record over there.
No, he played. I was thinking, did Craig Gower play for them? But no, that was Italy.
Italy and rugby league as well, I think.
No, he played for Italy.
Oh, did he play for
He
rugby
switched.
union?
Yeah.
There you go. Viva Italia! But the Wallabies have lost 48-17 in Argentina, their worst ever defeat at the hands of the Pumas. Michael Cooper, the most decorated rugby captain in Australian history, again did not play. Quade Cooper, we spoke about him last week, poor fella, ripping that Achilles. So James O'Connor played 10, and the All Blacks had a win over in South Africa, which means all teams in the Rugby Championship are 1-1. So making for some interesting viewing and not the domination from the All Blacks that I think everyone's become accustomed to in recent memory. Again, we say it every time we talk about rugby, not rugby aficionados, just passing on a bit of news. And unfortunately for Australian fans, it's bad news here. Yeah, Max, you've brought it up there. What is the record, if you don't mind, between Australia and Argentina?
A little bit better than you expected. So we've played 15 matches in Argentina. Argentina has won 5 of them.
Yep.
We have won 9, and there's been 1 draw.
Call it 6 and 9, maybe, probably not updated just yet. But that, in my mind, I was kind of like Argentina, like they're not,
they're not powerhouses.
Powerhouses, exactly.
Playing in Australia, they played 20 matches.
It's completely different, isn't it?
It's 2-16-2, so Australia's won 16 in Australia against them. So, definitely when they're travelling overseas, they're not getting the results their way as often as they would if they're playing here. But yeah.
And as well, it's a long travel. Like that's across the Pacific Ocean, completely different time zone. I don't know if there's any acclimatization.
Yeah, but then again, they play in Europe and South Africa and they travel a fair bit to play.
This is true, and they were in Argentina last week as well. So perhaps, unfoiling my theory here.
It might be more of the, young Australian boys in South Africa with lots of beautiful ladies around them, maybe.
In Argentina?
Yes.
I'm sure there's beautiful ladies on both sides of our little continent there.
It's different when you're on travel with the boys.
so Sean, out of nowhere, is blaming some Argentina Latinas.
I'm worried about my Bucks party for next week.
Good category. So the Pumarettes, you think have infiltrated the Australian camp?
Yeah, potentially.
Interesting. A little bit of that South American fire.
Yeah. Why do you think Quade Cooper had weak calves?
I don't know. Maybe because he tries to step 18, 20 times a game. Good.
I jest.
I also jest and wish Quade all the best with his recovery.
Especially at his age as well. And the type of player he is.
Yeah, exactly.
See what he is when he gets back.
Indeed. And look, if the boys were out on the circuit in Buenos Aires, that's off. I hope he did well. Bit of tango dancing. Very good. Great theories. Good theories here. Okay. That'll wrap up our rugby chat. Stellar insights as usual when we talk rugby union. Let's talk AFL. We follow it a little bit more closely, and I think that there's 9 teams. As said, the Saints, we were saying a mathematical chance, but their loss to the Brisbane Lions, I think, in a practical sense, has their season done.
You missed your whistle. You're going to do your siren?
It's really bad now. I'm
Pressure.
No, it's just a foghorn, man. It's a foghorn. I don't know. I missed it in the NRL too. Yeah. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. Anyways, rubbish aside, the Brisbane Lions did beat St Kilda, and it was pretty much off the back of some ordinary fourth quarter shooting. Of kicking straight. The Saints, they struggled a little bit. Poor Max King missed a few gimmies from straight in front.
I think he was on 5. So.
Not good. They did kick 6 straight behinds. Pretty hard to win games when you're not kicking straight. But the Lions get a job done in Melbourne. that keeps their top 4 aspirations alive. We'll talk more about Geelong in a second, but they've wrapped up first, and then 2nd through 6th is wide open.
Lions did need a win here to kind of right the ship a little bit as they're heading into the final.
Yeah, and getting a win in Victoria, yes, it wasn't at the G, but big for their morale. I think in we always talk about can they win in Melbourne. That they've beaten the Saints at Marvel. Yes, it's not the D's or the Cats at the G, but definitely good for their morale moving forward. Cam Rayner had probably his game of the season, booting 4.
Bit of a coming out party, I think, for him.
Yeah, yep. Number 1 pick overall a few years ago. A lot of speculation as to, should he have gone number 1? There was issues around his match fitness a few years ago, playing weight and the rest of it.
And he did his ACL last year.
Yeah,
so he's
coming back off a knee injury. He looks trim. He looks fit. He looks good. He looks like a top end AFL prospect. So hopefully he can keep that rolling for Brisbane Lions fans' sake and for his aspirations to be a really good footy player.
Yeah, I agree.
The Dogs, they nearly did a massive favour for Carlton. They just got across the line.
I was going to say they won, bro. They didn't do a Carlton.
They nearly, they didn't. They won a close game. They won a close game. I said, mincing my words a little bit there, but had the Bulldogs lost this game, Carlton pretty much would have been through to the finals, regardless of the result that we'll talk about in a second. But the Dogs did get home. Josh Kelly pretty good in a losing side. There was a kind of mix of goals in this one. The Dogs must beat Hawthorn next week by a fair bit and then rely on the result of the Pies-Blues game to keep their finals hopes alive. Speaking briefly via text in the Week Gutted Dogs chat with former Esky host Joe McGrath, he... I think Cozzy Pickett kicked that goal, which we'll get to in a sec, and within about 1.8 seconds afterwards, I had a text saying Carlton lol. I hit back with a mild, retort saying, I hope that the Dogs lose to the Hawks next week, lol. And he replied, so do I, sick of this season. So maybe akin to the Raiders and Dragons and the rest of it.
Yeah.
If these teams finish 8th, do they bother anyone? Anyways, we'll see. But they are still alive, the Western Bulldogs.
Any coach news for GWS?
I don't
nothing. Another week on.
Anything big?
Yeah, have a quick look there, James. While we talk about the Crows and the Roos, Adelaide getting a win. They were at home, were they?
They were at home, and the Roos dished up pretty good footy for about 3 quarters, and then kind of got run over at the end. Darcy Fogarty kicked 4-3 for Tex Walker, but the big story was Jason Horne-Francis, the number 1 pick,
going home for this game.
Yeah, he's from Adelaide. So, if there's rumours, or the media speculation is, to be believed, maybe he would have liked to go on and impress for North Melbourne in this one. Yep. He didn't get picked because he failed to complete his ice bath, and apparently was in front of senior teammates and in front of the coach. And, where there's smoke, there's fire. That seems to be the way that this chat's going. And poor North fans, poor miserable North fans, he may as well be out the door.
Yeah, well, it seems like such a stupid reason to drop a player.
I reckon.
And, whether they're kind of saying, oh, he's a weak gutted dog, he couldn't finish his time in the ice bath, it was too cold for him. But I just, overall, it seems dumb. I think you're trying to build your team essentially around him. Like, he's going to be hopefully a cornerstone of your team building up for the future for, whoever's coaching them and whatever they're going to do going forward in the next coming years. To do something like this, especially when he's meant to be going home, probably going to have a whole bunch of family and friends come out, watch him play, and instead he's playing in the VFL, and I think he had over 30 disposals and kicked a couple goals.
He's a class above the VFL, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. But Roo's going to Roos, I guess.
Yeah, feel sorry for him. That's for sure. The Crows reportedly going after Isaac Rankin of the Suns, 900,000 perhaps on the table. He's sort of had a bit of a breakout year. He's kicked 29 so far, and also from West Adelaide. So Be interesting to see if they jag him and get him moving forward. Both these teams not playing finals. I think we move on.
Yeah, well, I was going to use that as a segue because he obviously didn't kick enough goals to get them past the Cats.
No, he needed to kick about 10 more than he kicked. Unfortunately for Suns fans, a bit of a demolition job there from the minor premier Geelong Cats team. They are the premiership favourites, and so they should be. 3 each to Jeremy Cameron and Tyson Stengel. I think Tom Hawkins was kept relatively quiet in this one. It's going to be interesting next week as well.
Who do they got to finish off the season?
Well, they can't not finish first. They're 8 points clear. Do they rest a few of their older players, the Selwoods and the Dangerfields and the like?
Who have they got, Jimmy? Who are they playing next week?
Who do they play? Literally, the result does not matter.
Yep.
I just wondered.
West Coast.
West Coast. So very winnable. Very winnable.
I'd be a little
at home.
Yeah, I'd be a little concerned
home,
as a Geelong fan having two.
The 2 week break.
Yeah, they've had two buys essentially going into the finals, playing these clubs.
Few traffic cones, you reckon?
Yes. So I think it's. Yeah, and then if they rest guys and they should win easily as well, I don't know whether they come in underdone. They are a very veteran squad, so probably shouldn't be as concerned about it. And, maybe that plays into the reasoning for sitting them down and giving them a bit of rest. I don't know. They'll win that game either way.
Of course, yeah. They could probably send out, half their VFL team and still win that game. But, yeah, in terms of conditioning and they'll have a week off the next week. And then say they were to win, week 1 of the finals, it would mean you guys, if you were to rest next week, would have only had 1 game of footy in a month leading into a prelim final. I don't know if that's enough run in your legs and match fitness.
Well, you think of like the Pies, they're playing Swans now, and they're going to have to play the Blues next week in a game that's going to be. The Blues are going to try to win as hard as they can, so it's going to be a lot
on the line. A lot on the line.
Exactly. So it's different kind of run into the finals, and you kind of want to. You still want match fitness. You still want the that in their legs. So you still want they use all the cliches you want, the steel in the legs, etc., etc. You want them to come in red hot, not backing in.
I might usurp this conversation a little bit. We hadn't planned on going this way, but do you like the week off, or do you think it kind of takes away, from the spectacle of going into the finals itself? We're big NFL fans. Obviously, a week off between the championship games into the Super Bowl. Maybe that's something that they could consider is having that week between the prelims and the GF. It just feels like footy's heating up all of a sudden, and you're so into it, and then there's a week off, and I don't know. It's for mine because I haven't always done it. I don't know if I'm a fan of it.
Yeah, well, in the NFL they also have the wild cards, so they get another week for the guys that finish the 1 seed. So
and exactly the same as the top 4.
Yeah,
here.
So it's. I think statistically, if you look at it, it is advantageous, but it probably depends on the team and where they're at. Like if you've got a few guys that maybe have a few niggles and you start players, and an extra week is definitely what you need to get them right so they come out 100% versus, trying to coax them through at 80 or 90. But then some teams that are maybe younger might struggle with that because, it breaks their routine. You want to keep their routine going, and it's just like your training, football, game, training, game. They've just got that constantly. Whereas for some of them, you break it, it's like, you got the week off. They might have a pub sesh, take it easy, spend time with the family and the missus, and then they get out of the routine. Yeah, exactly.
I'd reckon if it was 1980s footy, that's definitely what the boys would do. I'm not sure in 2022 if that's the way that go.
Oh no, if it's 2022,
the pub session I'm talking about, not the spending of the time with the families.
You're right. They'll all be doing lines in that week off. So yeah, that's what the modern football player does.
Whoa. So, Sean of Wallabies chasing skirt in Buenos Aires fame and wild accusations around the modern footballer.
All professional athletes are just absolute degenerates.
It's going to be hard to get one to come on this podcast given those comments.
Hey, well, there's been a few already this year, so I'm just connecting dots.
I suppose that's it. Like nowadays, because it's high performance training is has such importance, leading into the finals. Do you need to be match fit? Surely you're getting enough Like I think with the NFL, with the way that they have their bye weeks and stuff, is because the players come out every other week saying that they need more rest time between games.
They're banged up.
They're banged up.
You know what it is? It's just like corkies and minor injuries that you can abate by having a week.
That's purely just
if someone it doesn't make a difference to someone that's broken their leg or done an ACL. It's about guys that are bruised and battered and corkies are a real thing. So a lot of the time I think people underestimate the pain and the disability that can come from a simple cork. Copping an AFL ruckman's knee into your thigh. Several times a game, probably does take a toll on some of these guys, or backing into a pack and getting flattened. That's the injuries that you abate by having the week off.
Yeah. So I think if you look at it statistically, from the guys that have a week off and they come back and do they win that game? Most of the time, yes, they do win that game. But yeah, he's like I said, it's depending on the team and the routine. Like you kind of outlined it there. In the week of football, they've probably got lots of meal prep. They've got that all sorted. They know every training session. They know where they're doing film review. They've got their week planned out, essentially. Give them a week off and they're, like I said, they're going to do 12 hours of COD and play video games. It's like it might just break them out of the mold.
Kyler Murray.
Yeah, exactly. It depends. I think it highly depends on your team and your structure. And then that's very much a coaching thing. So it's up to the coaches to work through that. Hey, we've got the week off. We need to prep for that correctly. So
don't lose your focus.
Yeah. So overall, I think yes, it's probably advantageous to have breaks, but also you need a good coaching and good leadership within your club for those that maybe might take it easier in that week off. So anyway.
Interesting. Get at us in the comments if you are a fan or not a fan of the week off leading into the finals in the AFL. One of probably, admittedly, the games of the year. Unfortunately, as a Carlton fan, didn't get the result last night. But the Melbourne Demons come away 5-point winners against the Carlton Blues. It all came down to the last 12 seconds, with Cozzy Pickett being an absolute hero, doing small forward things. He's been very good this year. Getting the crumb, chucking it on the right boot in a snap. It went straight down the hey diddle diddle, and the D's fans celebrated. The big story in the lead up to the game was the Pat Cripps non-suspension. So he did face a tribunal Tuesday night. Got given 2 weeks for his contact with Archie in the Lions game. He'd argued that there was no way that he could contest the ball without a collision. It was very reminiscent of the Willie Rioli on Matt Rowell incident from week 1. He got 0 weeks. So, consistency, I suppose, comes into it. Obviously, as a Carlton fan, I was elated when Cripps got off, but did get some good lawyers in there, and I'm not sure exactly what was said or how it went down, but managed to get 2 weeks rubbed off.
It was a 4.5 hour deliberation, like, for them providing all the evidence and things like that. So Cripps, I think, said he watched the first hour and a half to see what they were doing, and then I need to get some rest. So turned off the live stream for it. So yeah, it's interesting. I think it's with the nature of the gladiatorial sport we keep talking about, that it's probably fair, and like you said, it was consistency. But then on the other side of it, the head knocks, the concussions. This is like you're dealing with the fair line there. That yes, you can go in kind of reckless, kind of high. There's going to be collisions, and maybe someone's going to come off on the wrong end of it. You're now kind of just weighing up what you want your sport to be going forward, and that was maybe the differentiating factor in the Matt Rowell one. He bounced back up straight away, no worries. Whereas Callum Archie had to be, taken out of the game. Yeah, and did he play this week?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No, I think, mandatory HIA, he would have missed the game. So and again, we've spoken about it before. Does the result to the injured player play into the judiciary's mind? It shouldn't, but subconsciously, I think it does.
You can look at the vision. Like it
looks like call me a one-eyed navy blues man here, but it looks like Cripps is looking at the ball and makes a hard play on the ball. He gets there second.
Yeah, but he also does leave his feet, and he is above shoulder height and hits him square in the face. So it's it's just like, well, yes, you've gone in there to try to get the ball, but also you've gone in there reckless. So it's just where you want to, how you want that to go forward. If you're saying, yep, that's allowed, then I'd expect more of this to happen. So it's with the AFL to potentially deal with the repercussions of that.
And that's what the AFL said Tuesday night. They said you could have made a split-second decision to tackle rather than bump, which means going against everything that you get taught as a footballer, which is to have eyes for the ball and try to win the footy and be hard at the contest. Yeah. So we are talking about split-second decisions here. Yeah. Things happen so quickly. But I think Cripps did what you get taught to as a Aussie rules footy player, and had eyes for the ball and went hard at the ball. Again, I'm a Carlton fan, and maybe that is playing into it. So interesting, and it was it really played into the opera, the theatre, if you will. Don't know why I said opera on my mind here. Fat lady,
they do it in a theatre,
fat lady singing something like that. Phantom of the Opera chat, get at me. It played into the theatre of this massive matchup, and it didn't disappoint as a game, I suppose, for neutral viewers or for Western Bulldogs fans that would have liked the result here.
Well, I guess that leads into the final question. Do you think they make the 8?
So it's all going to come down to scenarios next week. The Carlton Blues will play Collingwood at the MCG in front of reportedly perhaps 80,000 people. The final start next week.
It's the biggest game next week, I'd say, on the calendar.
Massive traditional rivals. We spoke about their first matchup in the year and the Pies winning that. I think the Pies went one ahead in the all-time rivalry between these two clubs of over 120 years of history. The Blues win, they're in.
Yeah, they got to win.
The Blues lose.
Problem is they're playing the Pies,
who are in red hot form. They're currently down by 22 points to Sydney. It doesn't matter about what Collingwood's doing. It will matter about how Carlton show up for that game next week.
Currently second, so that's just put that out there.
I think they're technically currently third.
Either way.
Anyways, they're
higher than the Blues.
They're playing good footy. They're playing good footy. It's going to be a hard slog.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the Western Bulldogs will play Hawthorn, who we just saw get demolished by Richmond. And the Dogs currently sit 2 percentage points behind Carlton. So if Carlton are to lose...
Do you want to ask the accountant on the end of the table to work out what...
No, because I've seen him try to do quick maths on this podcast before, and I want to get home for dinner tonight.
Oh, okay.
What?
With respect. With respect. It's Bucks parties next week. Let's go. Yeah. So it's going to come down, and they play simultaneously-ish. It's the Dogs Hawks kickoff is like 110, and it's like 320 for the Pies Blues. So if the Dogs are up by 60 points, the Blues will be thinking, we fucking have to win this game.
Yes,
have to win this game. Luckily, Collingwood haven't been destroying teams either. They've famously, had all these, single-digit wins this season. So hopefully it's a close game, but it's a control your destiny kind of one for Carlton. If they win, then they're not going to have to worry about percentage points.
Yeah, well, St Kilda in that conversation but mathematically they'd probably have to score 300 plus.
Yeah, I think they've got to beat the Sydney Swans by like a third grade kind of score line. One way traffic.
Don't see that happening.
No, mathematically there's a chance. Realistically, there is not. Rest in peace, St Kilda fans. It was a pretty good effort of a season, but so close, but so far.
Yeah, finished exactly where we thought they would.
Yeah. Check the tape. Just don't look at the Brisbane Broncos Cowboys tape.
Dockers Eagles?
Dockers Eagles, yes. Not too much to report here. The Dockers won the derby. No, the derby. The derby. We fuck it up every time. They drink EMU exports. They don't drink West End. They're out there. They're the most scared place of COVID in the whole wide world. But, hats off to McGowan. Did well. Anyways, we're getting sidetracked here. Tim Kelly missed the game. He got a week for a sling tackle. I don't think anyone kicked more than 2. I think Michael Frederick had a few good goals there. He's become a personal favourite of mine. I like the way he goes about it, and a fast, exciting player. Freo will be in that mix of, second to sixth aspirations of the top four. Monks, if you wouldn't mind looking up who Freo play next week.
They are 2 behind all the others. They're on 58 where the others are on 60.
Because of Zidraw.
Yes.
Zidraw. So perhaps that may hurt them. Let me have a look at the ladder here. Yeah, you're right, you are. So for them to finish top 4...
all the others have to lose.
All the others have to lose. I think Freo, we can maybe safely say, not finishing top 4. Who do they play?
They have got the Giants next week.
The Giants, kind of nothing to play for, although, push the Western Bulldogs. I think Freo should probably start preparing for an elimination final. Tigers, they look like they'll be playing finals footy, getting right at the right time, as per the Melbourne Storm, as per the Sydney Roosters.
They're confirmed, aren't they? They're 7th. They will finish 7th.
They are 7th at the moment?
And
because they're 2 points ahead of where the Blues are.
Yeah, they can't miss. They can finish 8th technically, but they can't finich outside of the top 8. Well done, Richmond Tigers fans. You'll be playing finals footy. Tom Lynch, but speaking of 8, Tom Lynch kicked straight. He booted 8. I'm starting to rhyme. I shan't abate.
Keep going.
I don't know. It's getting late. I've got nothing else.
Fuck me, mate.
Fuck me, mate. There you go. All right,
anyway, that's terrible.
Let's have a clean slate. And Jesus Christ, this is hard going sometimes,
Jay-Z
isn't
and
it?
Kanye on the table.
That's right. Maybe more mentally intact at the moment, although it's hard. I've got a month-old kid at home. It plays on you. Anyways.
Tom Lynch, boots 8.
Tom Lynch, boots 8. He overtakes Charlie Curnow. He overtakes Charlie Curnow in the race for the Coleman by 1 goal. So that will go down to next week. Good on you, Tom Lynch. Big Ben McAvoy announced his retirement this week. We'll be talking about 2 blokes who are legends of their clubs that have announced their retirement. 250 games, 91 for the Saints, 159 for the Hawks, 2 times premiership player, 2014, 2015. And who will ever forget all kind of big boy McAvoy chat. The big ruckman and club captain will be calling it a day after next week. Hawks showed a little bit of promise, knocked off a few pretty good teams this year.
Yeah, they faded in the back half.
They really dropped off in the last sort of run home. Some kind of good building blocks, I think, moving forward. Jai Newcomb has been an explosive bull in the middle, but they were completely outclassed by a more experienced team this afternoon by the Richmond Tigers.
Monks, you got Dusty watch on the end of the table?
Yeah, what is happening?
Yep.
What's the father-in-law was asking about Dusty Martin? What might be happening? Where what's news?
There's a few reports this week. What do you got, James?
Tigers are just playing him cautious. Obviously, I guess guaranteed finals footy. They will just keep him, from the looks of it, just on the bench, rest him up, keep him fresh for finals.
Yeah, from what I heard is they've ruled him out for the rest of the season, and he'll only be back if they play finals, which they are now. Just which final will he play? That's I guess the question. And if you're any of those other,
probably
you'd think
ready to get going straight away.
Yeah, you'd think so. So you think that they, if you're the team coming up against the Tigers, expect them to roll Dusty out for you. Big
Mason Cox. Look at that, getting into it. The big yank. Got his
needed that goal.
Got his Australian passport this week. Recently getting his citizenship. That rolls us into Swans Pies chat. Swans currently lead at the SCG by 23 points. Will take an almighty comeback for the Pies to chase them down. The big story out of Sydney this week was the retirement of Josh P. Kennedy. Obviously, JJK of Me Shedding Him a Beer fame, of booting 8 goals last week fame. He's retired effectively immediately, did not play last night. And Josh P. Kennedy will be retiring at the end of this season. Now, he is on the back of recurrent hamstring injuries. It might be a case of how far does Sydney go. How bad is his hamstring injury? Unlikely to play week 1 of finals, but could play again this year. Just looking back on his career, he was picked 40 in the 2006 draft. That was not a function of him being the 40th best player. It was a function of a father-son. He debuted for Hawthorn. He's a third-generation AFL VFL player, which is pretty special. His old man, John Jr., and old man's old man, John Sr., had played for Hawthorn. Wasn't really getting a run, a good Hawthorn side in those days. And by his words on 360 this week, said that Sydney threw him a bone and got traded over there. And it turned out pretty good. Played 291 games in the AFL, 277 with Sydney. He was a premiership player in 2012, 3 times All-Australian. And I did see this week the most contested possessions of all time. Hard-nosed footy player. But the Swans' young group, coming through, are in good stead to kind of change over here, to pass the baton, if you will.
Yeah, they're a bit of a team in transition at the moment with all the young...
And their transition looks good. We were talking about that under-22 squad that got announced during the week. 40 blokes in that squad. 5 Sydney Swans players, including the likes of Chad Warner, Errol Goulden, Rowbottom, a few others. Their immediate future looks pretty good. I think for the Sydney Swans. So Josh P. Kennedy, can probably be happy that his club's in good stead, with his departure. And it'll be interesting to see, do we see him on the footy field again in the finals? It's going to come down to those dodgy hammies.
So it just kicked off in the fourth quarter there, 64-41 in the favour of the Swans. Monks, do you have an update on your Bombers at the end of the table?
Yep, they are currently losing to Port 22-55. Not really too much to talk about there.
Both out of contention and
Yep.
Power beaten teams, but too little too late.
The kind of only storyline, I suppose, out of Power camp this week was the future of Ken Hinkley being questioned. Obviously, them starting 0-5, derailed their season from the start. Played some pretty reasonable footy after that. Koshi came out and said that Ken's been a member of the Port Adelaide Footy Club. I think he's been the head coach for quite some time, but been involved for over 10 years now. He backed him in moving forward, but also said that nothing's kind of finalised just yet. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the offseason.
Yeah, it sounds like if we can get a better, bigger name, we'll sign them. Otherwise, we'll stay put.
If by chance Alistair Clarkson falls into our lap, then we might be having a little tap you on the shoulder moment with Ken Hinkley. By all reports, Clarko, might be going to Essendon, might be going to North Melbourne.
GWS?
Could be going to GWS. Lots of speculation. No further news, just more speculation, really, around Clarko. Hopefully he's had a good year off. Clarko gone wild. His gap year. Clarko's gap year.
What, did you go to Argentina,
That's
bro?
it.
Few senoritas.
Probably the only other thing to mention from this game, Massimo D'Ambrose, currently on 2 goals at the moment.
Definitely how you say his name.
He attempted it.
D'Ambrosio.
Okay, I missed the last though.
There you go.
On 2 at the moment, first 2 career goals for him.
First 2?
Yeah, apparently, yeah.
Because he was a rising star a few weeks ago, but maybe he didn't kick a goal in that one.
No, I don't know where I got that. Yeah. First 2.
First 2?
Yep.
First 2.
From the looks of it.
Which game? Because I'm pretty sure he was a rising star one week, so obviously he didn't kick goals in that one. Maybe
I'm not sure.
Maybe round 16 against the Swans. Not sure. Anyways, shout out to Massimo. Good Italian name there. Orazio Fantasia. Enter to chat.
Run us through some cricket.
Yeah, quiet week in cricket. Hang on, the noise. Hazard!
Yeah, I figured you did.
Thank you. Anyways, probably a short-ish cricket chat here. The 100 is underway in England. Glenn Maxwell been doing a bit, taking wickets and scoring runs. Now, if you are listening to this section, I doubt we'll clip this. But what are your thoughts on the 100? I hate change. It makes me feel insecure. I'm scared. I don't like it.
Yeah, you're insecure about a lot of things. So it's
calves, noses, parenting ability,
cock.
Maybe you should have led with that. Look, off the top of the head, mediocre size, but for the height, probably disappointing ratio. Anyways, please continue, Sean, and your thoughts around the 100. It's obviously they're trying to get metric system decimal places to line up here. I think it's a bit gimmicky, but there's a lot of money getting thrown into it.
Well, it seems to be the case. I guess for them, it's viewership and retention. And for us, being that time zone and where it's kind of going to be played, is we haven't really get a lot of it, unfortunately.
It's in the middle of the night. There's a bunch of teams that we don't know. There's not a whole lot of Aussies playing.
Yeah, so I'd be interested to see probably what happens post the tournament, as in what kind of the result was and what they got out of Europe, especially in England for viewership for that, to see kind of what it is. But you look at all the sports, they're all trying shorter formats of their current games to try and get into that quick hitting, maintain viewership, keep that retention for those younger generations. So we've seen it. We mentioned before the World Series. We're going to the 50 over format, then get to the 20 over format, now to the 100 balls. We'll have to see. Soon it'll just be they'll play one over and they'll put that on
super over.
Yeah, and they'll put that on TikTok and it'll be all good.
I'm glad you said that because I was like, this screams TikTok.
Yeah, exactly.
Next, I'm bored. Next, I'm bored.
Exactly.
Next, what's that? China spying on me?
Yeah. So
Allegedly.
Yeah, they're busy in the Strait at the moment. So we'll see. There's obviously big money in it. That probably leads into Chris Lynn chat and you're joining the new tournament that's happening over
there. The Emirati League. I don't think we've got teams confirmed, but I was reading this week that they're hoping to blood a few Emirati players. Now, it's going to be the opposite of the way that the IPL works, in that there needs to be 4 Emirati players in each team, and then the rest will be comprised of internationals.
Yeah, and that probably has to do with the amount and quality that they've got.
I can't imagine following a league with 7 Emirati players in each team being of much entertainment value to myself.
Yeah, start off with the internationals, paying big money, and then try to grow. They're essentially trying to grow that league there now. Try to grow their cricket ability going forward. So. Yeah,
that oil money. We've talked about the Saudis and the Live. The Emirates trying to grow their sort of homegrown cricketing interests. Obviously, hosting Pakistan for test matches for a long time. Australia's played multiple test matches there. Haven't seen too much of their homegrown talent, but we'll get to see a little bit, at least from 4 players from each team, and a lot of big internationals committing to this tournament. It will run concurrently with the Big Bash, but towards the end. I think it's...
Aren't they a December tournament?
No, I think it's slated for a mid-January start, I believe.
Well, it overlaps a fair bit with the Big Bash.
It does overlap a fair bit. Monks, you've got it up there. Is there an official start date?
No official start date, but it's scheduled for sometime January.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. Okay. So,
which is like the middle of the Big Bash League season.
Exactly. So. We'll interrupt finals. That's for sure.
Yeah. So if we go back to bags for Chris Lynn, drops from his 200K contract with the Heat for probably not returning on the value, but
just didn't really perform this year. We were looking at the numbers during the week. I think he averaged about 18. He only scored 50 once.
Had been hurt a lot as well.
Yeah, exactly right.
But still, wasn't enough value for him for what he's getting paid, but now he's going to get 750K going.
Well, he's
reportedly.
Yeah, he's a T20 icon, and he's a Big Bash icon. Pretty much,
he's a big name that you can put on posters.
Indeed, and the Big Bash has lost one of the most decorated players in that tournament's history. I think if you look at most stats, I think he's got the most sixes in the Big Bash by a long way. I'm pretty certain he's got the most runs. A long tenure there with the Brisbane Heat.
But we've talked about the T20 player, the tournament player, and Chris Lynn, I think, fits that mould very well because, he could have gone and signed with another Big Bash League team, maybe getting the 200K or you get 3 times that.
Well, no, the Platinum contracts are going to be 350.
Yeah.
350. So he's taking the double.
Yeah, exactly.
Taking the double.
Well, that's if he got that. Maybe he was going to be a fourth rounder.
True. Yeah, that is true. And possibly wouldn't have gone for the platinum money, considering his poor form last year. But, like we say, it's easy for people that, work regular jobs to go, just taking the money, yada, yada, yada. And then, but a la Cam Smith, if it gets thrown your way, maybe you do go, yep, no worries. Where do I sign?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm kind of agreeing that this is his best interest, definitely, and to follow that kind of T20 tournament play, I was just like, where can I get, don't want to just purely call him a mercenary, but put him in that category of. Yeah, where's the biggest dollars? I'll go that. I've only got a couple of years left. Let's maximise what I can make now. I
think that's fair. Like that's where Chris Lynn is now. Not really featuring in Australia's white ball. Plans moving forward. Whether that be T20 cricket or ODIs, hasn't played for Australia in quite some time. Dealt with injuries. He's kind of got a bit of that. West Indian kind of. Mercenary is a fine word to use there, but just taking his talents around the world, play the big T20 comps, and hopefully he's still got a bit of old Chris Lynn about him, and can launch a few sixes and earn that paycheck. But
that's the hope. That's why they've picked him up to try and go over there and get those highlights to promote their league.
Hats off to him.
So staying home then, someone that is going to play in the Big Bash Live, Davey Warner.
Davey Warner will be playing for the Thunder. I don't know how that works with draft and the rest of it.
Is it technically a retention?
Well, I don't think so because he hasn't played for like 9 years.
But would they own his rights? Maybe
I doubt it. I'm not really sure as to how that works. It was Candace Warner that was speaking on Fox Sports this week, saying that Davey will be coming back. He probably could get a little bit more money by going to the UAE, but wants to give back. That's where it all started for him. Essentially, went from a Big Bash / T20 star into the Australian Test cricket.
Stalwart in the opening.
Yeah, exactly. So he's coming back. Obviously has a young family. I think he's got 3 young girls here. So he's just going to spend the summer here and make
it's also
make a little bit less money and a lot of intrigue.
But it's also a bit of a different situation. He has been playing for Australia for a very long time, and of the Australian cricketers, they get paid the most.
Exactly. So, exactly. And maybe, I don't know if someone...
He's made his dollars, so he's giving...
Or if someone from Cricket Australia said, look, we're really trying to keep the interest alive in the Big Bash here. You're arguably the best T20 player in this country. It would mean a lot, if you were to play here. I don't know.
I wonder if he's got one of those Sydney Roosters deals, and there's some other media stuff.
Yeah,
he'll have to do on the sideline to get a bit of extra cash than just his salary.
He is an Eastern Suburbs man. Who knows? who knows that? Maybe
enjoy the new Mercedes.
Nick Politis has entered the Sydney Thunder chat. Of course, we just have a laugh there. Yeah. So Candice was on telly there. There's nothing around the deal. It's got to be. He's going to be a platinum player. Is that right?
Yeah. So it's going to be worth at least $340K, which is that same price of those top.
Are they picking
players.
first or something?
Not bad for two months' work.
Yeah.
Has the draft order been released for the Big Bash? The draft will be 2 Sundays' time, so we'll probably cover that in a couple of weeks. We're off at Monkeys Bucks party next week. Let's go. Sean interested in going to Argentina apparently for Bucks parties. We kid. But yeah, we did chat about the Big Bash draft. If you are interested in how that works, please check out that video. It's a weird place where we're at now, where a few years ago, there seemed to be a lot of interest in the Big Bash, and it's really waned. I don't know if it's COVID that's hurt it, if it's the lack of, big name test guys being available for it.
Oversaturation.
Or oversaturation, too long a season.
Yeah, tried to do too much, added too much, and then it's just,
Yep. So the team order for the draft. So we got Melbourne Renegades first, then the Stars, Brisbane Heat, Sydney Sixers, Adelaide Strikers, Perth Scorchers, Sydney Thunder, and then Hobart Hurricanes.
So no idea how this works in that Davey Warner being retained. Anyways, we get to see the Reverend, we get to see the Bull playing a bit of coloured clothes cricket domestically here in the Big Bash come this summer. Internationally, South Africa is about to kick off their test tour of England. First of 3 tests starts Wednesday at Lords. It's going to be intriguing. There's been a little bit of war of words around Bazball and the rest of it, and the South African seam attack, one of the best in the world, and those English conditions may be a little bit conducive to the way that they like to play the game. England obviously having a very good summer so far, disposing of India and New Zealand.
Yes,
three against New Zealand, 1 against India. Yep. So 3 tests upcoming against South Africa, the first of which kicks off Wednesday. India are doing that 3 ODI series in Zimbabwe before taking on the best of Asia in the T20 Asian Cup. And then before we know it, it'll be October and we'll have the T20 World Cup here down under. That's about it for Cricket Chat. Let's talk some round ball.
What's your sound effect for the soccer?
Oh, good question. Good question.
Ref, he tried to fucking kill me.
Some kind of dive, some kind of diving iteration. I don't know. I need to come up with that one. Leave it with me. I'll have one for soccer next step.
But no. It's got to be something to do with goal. Goal!
Go! Golazzo!
Anyway.
Barcelona have done some kind of dodgy deals, it seems, during the week. We were
actually cash.
Yeah, well, we were speaking about their big name signings, spearheaded by Robert Lewandowski, maybe not being able to take the field. That did not eventuate. All 5 of their new signings got registered. A lot of park footy about this, late registrations, pay your fees, et cetera.
Where's your insurance?
He's not registered. Trying to get deduct the 3 points for a player not being registered. But Lewandowski, Rafinha, Christensen, they all played last night in La Liga for Barcelona. They drew with newly promoted Rayo Vallecano. If you're wondering who they are, they've just come up. They're the 3rd team in Madrid. They're not Real or not Atletico. They are Rayo Vallecano, and they held Barca to a 0-0 draw. So Barcelona sold 24.5% of Barca Studios this week. You might be wondering, what is Barca Studios? They kind of do a bit of social media, a bit of a streaming platform. It seems like it's been a bit of a money pit for Barcelona and Barca TV, and they sold them for a cool 100 million euros, that nearly quarter share of that company. Reportedly, still owe Leo Messi money, still owe some ex-players money. It seems to be a bit of a shit show, but look, allegations of corruption and the rest of it here.
Shock me.
Reportedly, Barcelona $1 billion in debt. I don't know how debt works when it gets into those kind of numbers. It's, when they say the US is like $1 trillion in debt, you're kind of like,
That's just a little bit more.
but what happens? Like, do you send debt collectors? You send a few bikies around there, rough up the US, pay your money. Like, I don't know how it works when it gets to that kind of numbers. Anyways, so Barca are going to be able to play all their new signings, of which the most interest is around Robert Lewandowski, and doesn't seem like too much has come their way in terms of sanctions. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the old white collar crime, isn't it? White collar crime.
Yes.
Someone's slinging a little bit of marijuana on the street, lock them away forever. But guys that wear white collars, they don't go to jail anyway.
Community service, bro.
Yeah, a little community service. Interesting to see what's going to happen there. I think Real and Atletico Madrid probably licking their lips with the finance situation with Barcelona. Speaking of Barcelona, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is on their in their squad at the moment, and probably won't get a whole lot of game time, given Lewandowski and Rafinha and the likes playing up front for them. He did play under Thomas Tuchel for school at Borussia Dortmund, and has been linked with going to Chelsea. I think he's 33 now. You've got a story there, Monks. Chelsea are ready to sign him as well as Frankie de Jong, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
What are they asking for in transfer fees? That's probably the important thing here.
Barca will be going, trying the hard sell here, surely. Need a bit of money, a bit of desperation, a bit of Gil from Simpsons, if you will. Quite desperate probably to cash in on these two guys.
That's it. Just trying to get through this now. So apparently United was going to pay £72 million to sign De Jong.
That's a bit of cash.
Chelsea's willing to match that.
It's not good news for United. We'll get to them in a second. But if they miss out on signing anyone, dire straits.
And apparently Pierre-Emerick would be moved on a free transfer.
Free transfer?
Or
I know he'd already moved for free. So probably not a lot of money attached to him. Hence Thomas too cool for school, thinking, come bang in a few goals for Chelsea, probably off the bench at his age. Man United, they are in massive, massive trouble. Drubbed 4-0, not by Manchester City, not by Liverpool, not by Chelsea, but by Brentford, the Bees. They knocked in 4 in the first half. As it stands, United, yes, it is only 2 games, but they currently sit dead last. The first goal was just a comical error from David De Gea. He was pretty remorseful in the post-game interview, and then some really scrappy defending. And Brentford, before you knew it, were up 4-0. Apparently trying to play a bit of a different style under Ten Hag. I think they lined up in a 4-3-3 last week against Brighton. They line up in a 4-5-1. Overnight, it seems like the players don't know what the game plan is. They held a lot of possession here, but just were getting smacked on the counter. Ronaldo has been playing, so he played the whole game overnight against Brentford and came off the bench against Brighton for 37 minutes. He hasn't found the old onion bag just yet, and it doesn't get any easier because they play Liverpool next week. That is at Old Trafford. United boys. So the United to get relegated chat started,
Rickon's in our chat saying, feel for Man United fans. They're currently looking for new teams to join. Rip Man United, time to regulate them.
It's interesting you said that because I've got a soccer chat on Facebook. A few blokes I went to uni with, a few blokes I never met before. But we talk a little bit of soccer in there. And I've jumped on the Millwall train. I saw that Green Street Hooligans. I like the way that the cut of the jib in there. I like the cut of the jib in Millwall. So that's my new championship team. And I've jumped off Manchester United. Look. Not diehard United fan, but they are my team in the EPL, and it's hard to comprehend how one of the world's most valuable and elite, illustrious football clubs has been able to dish up what they have in the last 2 weeks, going down to Brighton and Brentford. The English press has been having a field day overnight. Pathetic is one of the words that's been thrown out. Head scratching. Guys, being really questioned. Eric Ten Hag under enormous scrutiny. The poor fella in only his second, top flight game. But with that list, they shouldn't be losing 4-0 to anyone.
No, not to Brentford.
Let alone Brentford. Christian Eriksen signing with them. His old team, obviously. A few Danes there, a few blokes that he plays international football with. He might be questioning his decision to go join a quote-unquote big club. It's dire. It is really dire straits for United fans. Alas, it is 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks.
Early.
It's 2 weeks in the season.
That was going to be my point. It's early, and they're not rebuilding, but maybe they're retooling a little bit. They've got to find their feet, and there's so much uncertainty as well in that club. What their future is going to be held like in a month's time. Ronaldo might not be playing.
The Ronaldo uncertainty is one thing. The other uncertainty is you look at a team like Man City, you look at a team like Liverpool. You've got a pretty good understanding of who their best 11 is.
Yeah.
I keep going through the United squad. They've got their second team would be just about as good as their ones team. Yeah. To put it in that kind of Resi's and first grade kind of Australian way of looking at one of the most one of the most successful clubs of all time. They've got a lot of talent that doesn't play, especially defenders. They've got quote unquote world class defenders that aren't fitting into that best 11 at the moment, and just some guys that I just don't know if they're proven. Poor Fred cops a lot from Brazil. Fred of 4 letters in his name, fame, but he just seems like he's a step slow and gets found out a fair bit. Obviously, De Gea had a stinker, but United legend, you can probably forgive him for that. All the question marks around Ronaldo, that can't be good for the rest of the team moving forward, and just maybe a bit of a lack of interest. That they kind of tried to part ways with your Paul Pogba's, of maybe care more about themselves and less about the team. Those kind of guys last year, but I don't know if they've replaced them with guys that their heart's involved with the team. But like we said, 2 weeks, maybe Ten Hag can kind of instill some kind of structure and a finite, best 11 out of this squad. They dominated the possession. They created plenty of chances. It was just really scrappy defending, which came unstuck here.
They may lack a little bit of direction currently. So see what they are in a month's time.
Indeed,
if they're 0-6 by that point.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine? Big test against Liverpool next week. It is at home.
What else happened in the EPL, Peppy?
So outside of that was really the big talking point. City looked pretty good. 4-0 demolition of Bournemouth. Bournemouth were paying 36 Australian dollars to 1 to win that game. Man City at $1.06. Their new star striker Erling Haaland paying $1.30 from Sportsbet to score a goal. City kicked 4, he kicked 0. So interesting there. They can do it without him. They're short price favourites to win the whole thing. As we spoke about last week, Arsenal have started off pretty well, 4-2 winners over Leicester City. It was Gabriel Jesus, the ex-Man City striker, that looked pretty good for them, and a massive matchup tonight in Chelsea and Spurs, 2 London teams that will both be looking to push City and Liverpool this year. I think this is probably a really good litmus test for where both these clubs are at. I think Spurs especially have added depth. I spoke about it last week, but they're third favourites to win the whole thing. And this will be a really good test for them tonight. But yeah, early days, essentially the takeaways are, United historically bad. Everton also, after last year not looking great, not looking great again this year. And it's the who can stick with Man City and Liverpool story.
Did Liverpool play? That is not on that list.
No, they play Monday night. They play, and they only drew, I think, last week. Drew
with
Fulham last week. Yep. So still a little bit unproven, but it's seems like it's going to be the 2-horse race, and who can stick it with City and Liverpool.
Very good.
NFL news, let's go. Green 19. All right, football is back, kind of. Preseason.
Yep.
Wasn't any major injuries to come out of it. It was a big scare for New York Jets fans. With
Jets have had a bit rough this
with Zach Wilson of MILF hunting fame going down with a non-contact knee injury. You always worry when they're non-contact. Scans came through today. You read this?
The reports are bone bruise and a meniscus tear. So they're saying anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. I think they were saying potentially a clean-up surgery for that, but they're hoping to get him ready for week 1. So there had been some reports that maybe the Jets would be interested in Jimmy D. They do have Flacco there as the backup. But yes, I think Jets fans can breathe a sigh of relief. He'll sit out the training camp, and we'll have to see what it looks like when the games start for real.
Massive sigh of relief.
Yeah. Unfortunately for them, Miko Belton.
Yeah, the big left tackle.
Yeah, did his knee, and it looks like season done for him.
Marks, can you just chase up there on Miko Becton?
I think it was ACL.
One of the biggest tackles getting around in the NFL. I'm sure Jets fans will be hoping that it's not the worst case scenario, but have you got any news there? The other thing out of that Jets Eagles game, did you see Jalen Hurts get belted so late? They That's a big time.
Did you see the Eagles coach? He yelled out across the field. He's like, "Salo, what the fuck?"
Fair enough.
Yeah, it was big time late.
Fair enough. And in preseason, not that that's okay in a championship game, but you kind of like, oh well, it actually means something.
Yeah, they're playing hard.
That's a big faux pas in a
preseason
game. He was fine, luckily. Bounced back up and played pretty well actually. Young Jalen Hurts, he was perfect in that drive. But it's not what you want to see in preseason. Lots of people think that these games maybe need to be reviewed or how many they play. Yeah, starters not even playing them at all.
Yeah, they've reduced it to 3. Across the league, really, most starters only, if you played starters, got a drive and that was it. They might play a quarter next week and then sit out for the third game. Overall, not a lot, but they seem to be selling well and get good viewership. So,
dude, some of the crowds are crazy.
Yeah. So
I watched the Niners and Packers yesterday. Mm-hmm. Probably 3/4 full there at Levi Stadium for a preseason game, which is nuts.
Yeah, but they did get to see a decent amount of Lance.
Trey Lance, he looked pretty good.
He did look good.
He looked pretty good.
For Packers fans, he got a fair bit of Jordan Love as well. So
the future,
yes,
the future,
potentially the future.
No Rodgers, no Aaron Jones, no AJ Dillon there for the Packers, and not many of their starting defensive players. They did go with Quay Walker.
Okay,
who played a fair bit there on the defensive side of things. But yeah, hard to gauge where the Packers are at. We'll speak about receivers shortly and what's going on in that receiving room.
I think that the main news is to follow the Ravens. History. They've now haven't lost since 2015, I think.
Yeah, they're the preseason kings.
Straight preseason games.
The preseason kings.
Yeah, preseason kings.
That's going to be Harbaugh's approach. Is putting some effort into these preseason games. I think I spoke about it last year when we went into the first year of the NFL being 17 games. It's got to go to 18. It can't be an odd number. 18 would be good. Fuck off one preseason game and make one more game that matters and have one less game that doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the Ravens, today or yesterday, Lamar's made the news that he's week one's his deadline for a new contract.
So we'll want some cash.
Yeah, see what that looks like after, say, the Murray and Watson deals. To be in that ballpark, I'd say for him, being a former MVP.
They won their game against the Titans. With this is going to be, the bane of the Esky. I'm going off the top of my head, but it's Tyler Huntley and Brett Huntley. I think one's got a T, one's got a D. I don't know. That if Lamar don't sign, one of those boys will be playing.
Yes.
Quarterback for them. The big story out of that game was Malik Willis getting a lot of action there for the Titans. Looked good with his legs. Probably needs still a little bit to prove with his throwing ability. But look good with the legs. Obviously, the comparison coming out of the draft was Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. What's your note there, Jims?
Oh yeah, just back on Becton. He suffered a knee fracture, so most likely out for the season.
Yeah,
he did something similar to what Pappenhausen did.
Ryan Pappenhausen. Yeah, not good.
I was just thinking about that. Yeah,
patella fracture.
So subsequent to that, the Jets have signed Dwayne Brown to a 2-year contract, reportedly worth about $22 million. So
not bad.
Not bad for a backup.
Indeed.
Yeah. I mean, interesting that it's a 2-year deal for something that's
maybe a 1 year injury.
Supposed to be only a 1-year injury.
Hedging their bets.
Yeah.
Imagine the size of his patella. It must take some force to put a fracture in that. He's a massive human being.
Yeah.
Roquan Smith, Chicago Bears inside linebacker, requests trade. Broncos are interested?
Yeah, well, quite potentially. And we just had our inside linebacker today dislocated his elbow 2 plays into the game, Jonas Griffith. So
now that injury looks really nasty. The bounce back from it can be quite quick. Quite quick. Yeah.
But even still, for Denver, and they're not the only one. Inside linebacker can be a bit of a hole. And Smith coming off his rookie deals, looking to get a new deal, doesn't feel like Chicago value his talents. He's now holding out officially. So he, of course, didn't play in their game and is away from the club. But yeah, I'd say he have plenty as suitors. He's, I think, led the tackle count for a couple of years as well. And he's been excellent since he got drafted. So a lot of clubs would be there, and I put the Broncos there because he could be, the icing on top. Though we probably don't have a lot of collateral picks wise to trade after.
Already down the house.
Yeah, with Russell Wilson, and I don't think we'd really want to give players as well in that hypothetical scenario because we're looking to potentially fight in the AFC West, make a playoff run, etc. So we'll have to see. And while we stay on Denver, officially sold this week.
Is there a price?
I think we
looked at it a few weeks ago.
Yeah, it was. Was it over
$5 billion?
Yeah, 5 point something.
Yeah.
To
Dr. Evil money.
Yeah, essentially to the Walmart group.
$4.65
billion.
Yeah, 4.6 billion. Didn't quite get 5. Yeah, USDs. So unanimously voted up by the ownership. So it's been official, and they've been stamping their kind of look on there. One of the Walt family is the CEO. They've announced a new team president as well, and someone else they've added in that list as well. And we talked about Lewis Hamilton last week. So they've got some new names, some new faces there. See what that means for Denver as a football club going forward. New stadium, new jerseys. That's all the recent chat. We'll have to see what happens.
Exciting as a Broncos fan?
Yeah, definitely. It's all new, and honeymoon phase. We'll see what it's like after 5 years of the wedding, and whether we're looking elsewhere.
Stale, sex life slowing down.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I suppose it's a stupid question, but they stay in Denver, obviously, for
yes,
short
I think
and
they're
long term.
happy with the fitness, with the what was I saying? The future, maybe.
Future?
The
future?
Yeah, they're happy where they fit. They're happy with Denver. They're happy with the market. A lot of history there.
Yeah.
I think as long as it's making them money, they'll be quite content. But they've got all the money in the world anyway, so we'll have to see. They've got a lot of good ownership, a lot of good faces in there. We'll see what it looks like.
James White, Super Bowl champion 3 times. Tom Brady's safety blanket for a while out of the backfield there. Put up some crazy numbers for receptions as a running back. Never really established himself running the football, but definitely
in a committee for a lot of it.
A committee and a key piece of Bill Belichick, Tom Brady offense. 3 Super Bowl rings, nothing to sneeze at. That's for sure. Announcing his retirement
after 8 years in the league. So,
did you follow this story at all? Was there any kind of reason, or just over?
I didn't see a huge reason, but maybe a little bit of writing on the wall as well with where the club is in their running back room, because they've got a lot of good talent there.
Damien Harris drafted Pierre Strong, Ramondre Stevenson coming along.
Yeah. So whether that kind of impacted it a little bit, and also getting up there in years as a running back, and didn't really want to try catching on with another club. Probably made decent money, so I think he's happy.
Good on him. Go out on top. Go out on top. Good on you, James White. There, it doesn't make any kind of make it any clearer, I suppose, the fantasy implications for New England Patriots running backs. We were big last week on Damien Harris, and I suppose this just makes you a little bit bigger on Damien Harris. We will talk fantasy in just a moment.
Yeah. What do you got there from your notes of week 1?
Yeah, so I watched the Packers. You obviously watched
Denver,
the Broncos. Did you catch any Bucks?
No, not today. No.
They went down to the Dolphins. I just saw the numbers. I saw Kyle Trask played pretty much the whole game. That's probably going to be the move going forward after Tom Brady when he retires when he's 88. Going forward. And for the Dolphins, I can't remember the quarterback's name, but he played the whole game. Tua Tyreek did not feature. Probably the talking points from week 1 in the preseason, Desmond Ridder, the Falcons' early draft pick, the quarterback. He threw for 2 touchdowns, ran for 59 yards, maybe pressing Mariota.
Mariota scored a touchdown with his legs as well. So
and he played the first drive, looked okay.
London did injure himself, but I think they're saying it's okay.
Okay, yeah. From what I heard,
Precautionary.
No serious injuries to big name starters through a week of preseason, which is huge. That's so good. That's what everyone wants to see. Something that maybe people want to see, maybe people don't, is Deshaun Watson playing football. Yeah. Played a drive or two against the Jags and was copying a pretty
lots of booze throughout the entire time he was out there,
and a bit of you sick fuck.
Yeah, chance went around. So yeah,
didn't play all that well either in that drive.
Very rusty.
Interesting. Did see a little bit of Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne playing a bit for the Jags in that one. Mahomes and Kels played a drive for the Chiefs. They did lose that to Chicago. And Kenny Pickett, this was interesting actually, 13 of 15, 92 yards, 2 touchdowns in their win against the
winning
Hawks.
Game touchdown as well.
So Kenny Pickett, that quarterback room there in Pittsburgh, maybe it's looking a little bit interesting the next few games for the Steelers.
Well, he was listed as third on their initial depth chart as well.
I don't know. So I don't reckon he's 3. I don't think he's 3.
Yeah, I think he'll definitely skip over Mason Rudolph. The question is, will he beat out the veteran in Trubisky as the number 1?
Fair statement. And for the Seahawks in that game, Drew Lock and Geno Smith pretty much played equal and pretty similar numbers.
I think Locke just outplayed him. I think he was like 11 of 16 to Smith's 6 of 11 or something. So
okay,
Locke was 11 of 15, 102 yards. Smith was 10 of 15, 101 yards. But
very similar. Yeah.
Locke had the 2 touchdowns.
The 2 touchdowns.
There was only the touchdowns difference, pretty much.
Yeah, they've for Jimmy G watch, it's probably Browns depending on the suspension. Maybe Jets, depending on Wilson. We think he's probably all right. Otherwise, maybe Seahawks, depending on how their preseason goes with the rest going forward. So, yeah.
That's week 1 in the books for the preseason. We've got games that matter coming up pretty shortly. But this time of the year, we like to talk NFL fantasy. We have done it the last few weeks. We did a rookies video early on. And then a quarterbacks one, followed by a running backs one. Today we'll be discussing wide receivers. Sean's done the research into who you want to go after and who you want to be cautious about in your fantasy draft. I'm going to go for a quick toilet break. But get us underway here, Sean. You're pretty happy with the top 10 receivers? Run us through it.
Yeah, well... Overall, as a statement, the wide receiver class is very deep, and that probably is a reflection of the last, say, 3 drafts, which have been very heavy on wide receiver talent. It means that, there's a lot of good available guys there ready to be picked up. So speaking of 10, the top 10, and depending on your list, in this range are going Lamar Chase, Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, Stephen Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, Michael Pittman, and then I've got T. Higgins in here. But we'll get to that in a minute. We'll start with Cooper Kupp and Jefferson. They're going potentially... they're going in the first round, and they kind of flip back and forth depending on which one goes first. Average draft position, they're about the same. It's your preference, essentially. Overall, then... Yeah, overall. So then Chase is then the next one very close. So you got Kupp and Jefferson going in the first very early. Chase is kind of sneaky into that first round, depending on the team's, the league length. But usually he's going very high in the second. The rest of those guys in that 10 we just talked about are going in that second to third round kind of tier, and there's anywhere from, say, 15 through to 30. So on this list, I think the guy that probably I like the most with super undervalued is Keenan Allen. He's been excellent there, had a huge amount of receptions. Definitely a lock for for wide receiver 1 there at the Chargers. He will get a lot of ball. And he's great value in that third round. He's kind of going there as wide receiver like 8, 9 or 10, depending what list you look at. So he's kind of floating in that round. I think that's great value, and if you can pick him up in the third, maybe even as your first wide receiver, if you've gone to running backs, still you're getting great value there, and you can be happy with that. That kind of leads us, I guess, into Higgins. which is interesting because depending what list you look at, anywhere from 9 through to 12 is kind of where he's floating. But he's the first wide receiver 2 on this list. But he kind of gets wide receiver 1 type looks with the Bengals, considering how much they pass the ball and score touchdowns, etc. They did have over 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns last year.
So you reckon the Bengals can still have enough production between Chase and Higgins to make them both very
and Tyler
viable?
Boyd's probably even viable there as well. Like they're the way they play football is volume passing. So yes, I think he's definitely got lots of looks. Is he top 10 in fantasy wide receivers? Well, he was wide receiver 22 last year. Like I said, he's going wide receiver 12 roughly. Depending on list, as I said, up to 9. But it kind of depends on order. And I think you threw in there Tyreek Hill and AJ Brown as questions. Hill was 6 last year, wide receiver 6. AJ Brown was 32, but was hurt.
Hurt for about 6 games.
Yeah, so you can weigh that up.
Will be wide receiver 1 at Philly.
Yeah. And Higgins, was 22. So, kind of in between the two of them. Hill is interesting kind of conversation. We'll get to him in a minute. But you got to weigh up. He's now at Miami and doesn't have, the freak, the alien that is Mahomes, throwing him 100+ receptions.
And obviously that's going to hinder you going from Mahomes to Tua Tagovailoa. Respectfully, that is a downgrade. But I just think talent-wise, I think they're going to try and really...
True, but talent doesn't win you fantasy games. So
yeah, that is true. That is true. I don't...
volume and receptions
yeah,
after. So.
I don't see a world where Tyreek Hill scores less fantasy points than T. Higgins this year.
Oh, as a comparison, probably not. But you just got to weigh up potential risk there that, yes, he gets fed a lot more with the Chiefs. Mahomes can throw the ball up to 50 times in a game, whereas I think Tua will probably average only 30. So, that's 20 less passes of volume, every game. And then also he's got a very good running mate there in Weddle. But, Chiefs had Kelsey. So I guess you have Kels. So I guess there's a comparison there that, they had two good wide receivers. So we'll see. And I think that's kind of reflected a little bit in Tyreek Hill's kind of value because we'll start with my little bit of fading segment. I'm very unsure about him and Weddle because he's going in the 20s. Weddle was about 40s as average kind of draft position. I'm just not sure. I'm just unsure probably more with the quarterback situation and what Tua looks like. There's some good stuff out of camp, some not so great stuff out of camp. Probably won't see a lot in preseason, so you've got to weigh up the risk of what that actually is going to look like when they get into there. So, unsure about those two purely based on quarterback play as your issue. So we'll have to see. Whereas you don't have that risk with Higgins. He's going to get high volume over there in Bengals.
Yep.
And, he'd probably get 100 targets again this year.
Yeah, that's a reasonable precaution. I've always been bullish on Tyreek Hill. We did have a chat last year around our top 10 receivers, and I was very big on Tyreek Hill, but it's a fair concern to go from the Chiefs system to the Dolphins. Yeah,
and Hill maybe going in that second, early third. You can get Higgins in the third, early fourth, and you're still getting a pretty good return. You're getting a wide receiver 2 that puts up wide receiver 1 numbers for a lot of clubs. So
and I'm not going to argue that. I'm not going to argue that, but I'm just cautious as to throwing him in that top 10 conversation in fantasy football.
Yeah, he's on the cusp of that. Like I said, wide receiver 12. So but depending on depending on how much you value, potentially he and Chase could both go over 100 receptions, and God forbid anything happens to Chase, then he's going to get all the value, all the volume. So
that's something that you got to.
He's also the highest handcuff too.
Yep.
So time will tell.
Let's talk about Deebo Samuel. So there's been a lot of speculation about him in the preseason, holding in and contract.
Got his contract.
So signed.
Yes, he got his big deal, so he will stay there. Lance looked good in the game, so this is kind of what you start way up. He's averaging in the 20s. I'm still, at this point, kind of fading him, as in I prefer to go look elsewhere because I guess I'm still unsure of his usage. Had the complaints about playing running back. His overall scrimmage yards is what made him very valuable in fantasy last year. So if you remove a lot of that RB and he's focusing more as a wide receiver, then maybe he's not valuable at that 20 average in the 20s there as an ADP, because maybe he's more like a 30 or 40 range.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, so
I'd be very skeptical of drafting Debo in the second round.
Yeah. And early thirds as well, potentially, because you still have questions there as Lance's quarterback, and then what his role is with that offense, what they're going to look like going forward. But so that's my concern there. Also fading Johnson from the Steelers, currently going in the 30 and 40s. We talked about it before. QB a big concern. Pickett was third, as we mentioned before. Mitch currently won. And if Mitch Trubisky is their quarterback, I'm probably avoiding a lot of Steelers wide receivers.
Yeah, Allen Robinson says hi, probably of being overdrafted in fantasy and not probably producing that much.
Yeah, just risk, just scary. There.
The risk is scary. Deontay Johnson put up some pretty big numbers last year. Obviously, different quarterback situation.
Yeah, going from a Hall of Fame quarterback to a flame out.
To who knows?
Flame out to
who knows?
Flame
out. Cop that.
Yeah.
Flame out.
Yeah, or a rookie in Pickett. We'll have to see. And for that reason, I think there's other with the wide receivers and with all the classes that have come out, I mentioned before. There's just so much potential available good guys that you could pick up instead.
And that's the difference, isn't it, when we're talking receivers to talking running backs? Running backs, you've got to go hard early, whereas there's so much depth with receivers. You could probably take a punt with just about anyone in these sort of mid-draft selections. So probably you have to consider that when you're talking about it. It's probably not as vital as
and where the league is and where some of those teams are, it's high volume passing, so wide receiver twos are even very valuable.
Indeed.
So for that reason, a lot of the guys here in my fading segment are QB related. So Amari Cooper again, he's currently going in the 60s. I'd probably avoid without the knowledge of the quarterback situation.
Who's it going to be?
Yeah, if Watson does get a season long suspension or even a 12-game suspension that there's been chat about,
ban him for life for doing a shoey.
Do they turn to Jimmy G and maybe that alleviate some of that concern? But otherwise, they've got nothing there.
And we're also talking about a quarterback that's not on their roster at the moment.
Correct.
There's so much speculation involved here.
Yeah. And then someone like following that trend, DK, you can even throw Lockett in this regards. Who knows who their quarterback's going to be?
What's the ADP on DK at the moment?
50s. He's going in the 50s, so actually higher than Cooper, I believe.
Wide receiver 21.
Yeah. So
wide receiver 21. I'd be bullish on DK here. And again, I know we just said talent doesn't win you fantasy comps, but I just think he's such a good receiver. I don't know if it's going to be Locke throwing in the ball. I don't know if it's going to be Geno Smith. I feel like he might be worth taking a punt on just in how talented a footballer
he is. But also, there's a QB risk. And I'd say if Smith's his quarterback, then I think that leads more to Tyler being more valuable there. Because
the deep threat.
Yeah, because Locke loves the deep ball and throwing it deep. He loves relying on his arm, which might lead better to going to DK there.
And you've seen a lot of Drew Lock as a Broncos fan.
Yeah, and he turned his rookie year with Cortland Sutton turned him basically into a wide receiver one because he could go up and get those deep balls. So looking forward to the Wilson and Sutton relationship. We'll get to that in a minute. But I think for DK that's probably the preference for quarterback, but then also, you got Locke there, who's had struggles, playing for Denver for a very long time. So, of those guys, I'd avoid them and be focused more on Brandon Cooks, who's been, I guess a forgotten man there in Houston, super underrated, but he's also been super consistent, 1,000-yard seasons after 1,000-yard seasons. Really, Nico Collins, maybe they're like they don't have a lot of other options there, so he's going to get a lot of ball thrown in his direction. So a lot of high volume his way, and David Mills hasn't been bad. That's the other thing. I
thought he was impressive last year, Davis Mills.
The neck is impressive. So
the Daily Cherry Evans of the NFL. I agree with you. I think Brandon Cooks is criminally undervalued. And
going in this range and 50s around all these guys, I'd be picking him over the other one.
And PPR. If you're in a PPR league, you're probably not going to get a whole heap of touchdowns, but probably will catch a lot of balls.
Yep.
He's kind of Jalen Waddle-esque in that, looking at that screen game, that short yardage situation. getting those 8-yard screens, PPR, thanks, 1.8 points, put it in the bank.
Yeah, well, and thank you for the segue there, because Waddle currently going in the 40s, and we talked about the concerns there with Tua, the volume. Will Hill take a lot of volume away from Waddle from what he had last year, because he really didn't have too much of a running mate over there that they could rely on consistently. So I think 40s is like high for him, considering I think Cook's probably got better value overall. So
yeah, that's too much. 4th round, 10-team league.
Yeah, or 4th or 5th round.
Yeah, I think that's a bit too eager on Jalen Waddle, considering he's wide receiver 2 under unproven quarterback. I'd rather a wide receiver 1 in Brandon Cooks under an unproven quarterback.
Yeah. Can you look up McLaurin for me, Jimmy? What's
your thoughts there?
Well, I'll get to that. We'll get him the ADP because so Mooney is the next one going.
Darnell Mooney,
yeah, going the 60s. Has a pretty good relationship from Fields. Did have a great catch today when they were both on the field. But I guess I'm in a wait and see mode with them. I want to see Fields probably will play a decent amount throughout the preseason going forward as they work him up. All accounts, he's been good in training camp. Then I've also seen a fair bit of air ball footage as well. So we'll have to see what that looks like. He'll be their number 1. If there's, with no Robinson there, there's basically no real other options as well. That's such a weak wide receiver group. And I think Harry got injured as well, N'Keal Harry, during the week. So, yeah. I think he's probably good value there, but I also just want to wait and see what their quarterback situation is going to look like. If Fields kind of looking like he's taking a step in these preseason games, then I'll be more comfortable there in that 6th or 7th round for him. Where's McLaurin going?
Yeah, Scary Terry. So been a favourite of you.
Yes,
highly rated, and has the numbers to back that up. Pretty. I think he's a bit unders. Do you reckon?
Yeah,
on where he's going at the moment?
What do you got there as a number?
Yeah, so he's averaging around 42.
42. So in the 40s. Yes, I think of Washington players, especially wide receivers, look at him, avoid all the others. Dotson's probably the rookie. We'll have to see what that looks like. Maybe it gives more freedom for McLaurin, but they had Heineke last year. It's going to be Wentz this year. That should be a bump there. McLaurin should take another step and got paid. So I think he's going to be a very good wide receiver this year, and I do like him compared to some of the others. Wentz is Wentz, but he's a better quarterback than Heineke was.
Exactly. So it's an improvement. So I can't imagine Scary Terry takes too much of a downturn. Now, have you got your blue and orange glasses on here?
Definitely.
Or are you big on Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton?
Definitely big on them. From what I've seen and some of the scrimmage yesterday from against the Cowboys, because they've been doing joint practices, they both look excellent. And I think in this range, we're talking 60s and 50s, Jeudy for 60s and 50s for Sutton. They have, potentially a Hall of Fame quarterback playing for them. They have a good quarterback situation, good offensive game plan looks like going forward, a good scheme, which will utilize them. Yes, Judy's probably going to be a target man, and Sutton's going to be a deep threat, get the touchdowns. So I think do yourself a favour, avoid some of those other riskier quarterback situations and focus on this one where you'll get a lot more return on your picks here in the middle of the draft.
Do you have a preference between Jeudy and Sutton?
Probably depends on what else you drafted, based on what I said before. If you need a guy that gets more volume, because you've got say you picked DK beforehand, go with Jeudy. Whereas if you looking for a guy that probably scores more touchdowns and still going to have good value there, I'd pick Sutton. But Sutton Wilson's chemistry in camp has been very good, and same with Jeudy. And now with no Tim Patrick, it gives them a little bit of a bump and potential volume going their way. So I do like both of them. I think they could both be in for big seasons.
What about the best wide receiver in fantasy football a few years ago? Obviously marred by injury. We're talking about Michael Thomas.
Yeah. And, coming back from an ankle injury, which basically ruined 2 seasons for him, we'll have to see what he looks like. Training camp looks good. Probably won't play any in the preseason. Does have his quarterback back in Winston. We'll have to see what it looks like. Currently going that 60 range. So I love his quarterback situation, probably more, both healthy. That I guess is your concern here. There could be value there. Mike Thomas could could be Mike Thomas of old and go back to be on pace to breaking reception records. That's what you kind of hope. And maybe in this range of that 60s in that 6th or 7th round, that's good risk. That's good value there.
I think that's it with him. It's just like it's a pretty high ceiling, but also a pretty low floor.
He will be wide receiver 1. If his legs are all good, then I think that's a good run there.
The guys going ahead of him, according to fantasypros.com, Chris Godwin, Elijah Moore, Rashad Bateman, Darnell Mooney. I like Mike Thomas better than any of those receivers, to be honest, just based on that ceiling, based on that high ceiling.
Yeah, we'll look at the quarterback as well. Like they've got a better, LASIK Winston is, has improved and he can throw the ball around all over the place. Like he's still a good quarterback, and his training videos are the best out there.
Very inspirational speaker in the huddle.
Eating them W's. So other great values.
Bit of value.
Yeah. I think Sam Brown in the 60s as well.
Detroit Lions.
There. Yeah. He's going to have a lot of value until Williams probably gets involved more in that offense.
Which we're not expecting until mid-season or later for Jameson Williams.
Some earlier reports than that. He's probably not ready for week 1, but could be ready around then.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's coming forward, modern medicine, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. I talked about that in our rookie video that Williams is a very late pick in your draft as a sneaky good one there, where he could potentially steal a lot of St. Brown's volume. But we'll see what that looks like. Either way, I think St. Brown's in for a good season and get a lot of volume there from Goff. Allen Robinson probably
at the Rams this year.
At the Rams will be wide receiver 2 to Cooper Kupp, but I'd say we've talked about. Cup probably can't.
It's going to be hard for him to reproduce.
So probably takes a step back. Robinson's going to then suck up all the volume from Woods and OBJ, and probably some of that extra there. There's probably a lot there of value, and I really like him as a wide receiver 2. Maybe he doesn't get up to T. Higgins kind of numbers, but you can definitely potentially see a comparison there.
Yep.
Biggest issue for them is I believe Stafford's got tennis elbow. In his throwing arm, so we'll have to see. He won't play any preseason, I'd say. Rest.
Yep.
Try to take the amount of throws he's got out of his arm, so he can feel a bit healthier. Yeah, but tendonitis, I think it is, in his elbow.
The old lateral epicondylalgia is the most current up-to-date term for that. A little bit of physio chat here. Do you know tennis players get affected by a tennis elbow? About 5% of this condition. Much more likely to see it in manual workers. Or contact sports people. Hopefully it's just a bit of bracing and taping and some rehab, and he's good to go.
Yeah.
Any news down there, Monks?
Need some of those Deshaun Watson massages.
Will that help his elbow?
Different appendage, I believe.
Anything you go, Jimmy?
Yeah, no long-term concerns. I think, like you mentioned, just keep it easy pre-season.
Yeah. Look at these numbers from last year. Why do people sleep on this guy? Like we spoke about it, I suppose, in the quarterback review. 41 touchdowns, 17 interceptions, nearly 5,000 yards, and a Super Bowl last year for Matt Stafford.
Yeah, and you got to remember, no Woods, no OBJ. So you got to say that's 40 touchdowns. Maybe 10 of those go Robinson's way.
Yeah,
which is huge numbers. Yep. Maybe he gets 1,000 yards.
Yeah, no,
still huge numbers.
Yeah, I like it.
So in the 60s, great value there, I'd say. And then I've added Elijah Moore, and it might depend on who plays quarterback. Things have changed since early. Was it early this morning or yesterday? So things can change. But Elijah Moore, by all accounts, has won the wide receiver 1 job there at the Jets, kind of beating out Wilson and
Corey Davis,
etc. So they've kind of taken second fiddle to Moore. So it would be interesting to see what his role is. I'd say it'd be high volume targets than maybe Tutter's, but he's probably going to sneak in a few touchdowns definitely there. And we'll have to see what it looks like with when Wilson gets back. But in the 70s there, 7th or 8th round pick as a wide receiver 1 with a young football team that's probably going to have a good run game, be better overall. I think that's good value there for a guy that could take another take a leap in his second season.
Yeah, he showed a bit of promise last year, especially towards the back end of it. Obviously, quarterback situation and the rest there, yet to be confirmed. But I think Elijah Moore, if you can get him 7th or 8th round, you've done pretty well.
And then if you keep going down that list, like Gabriel Davis is going late 70s, Lazar's going in the hundreds. Like there's still and he could be wide receiver 1.
Dude, we were speaking about this like pre-show. Yeah. I think Alan Lazard, and yes, I'm a Packers fan, but if you get him 10th round, 9th round, I reckon that's a steal.
Yeah.
Like potentially could be the number one target for the 2-time defending MVP. Yeah. Someone's going to have to feel the big boots that were Devontae Adams. I'm not saying that Lazard picks up Devontae Adams kind of traffic, but he's going to have to get a lion's share of it. And from what I've seen in this wide receiver group, I think he's going to be the number one target for 12 at Green Bay. Yeah. I think that's an absolute steal.
Yeah, I agree. Because you look at the other wide receivers in that group, they're going to have a bunch of rookies.
Yep,
probably playing.
Christian Watson hasn't been available. Sammy Watkins,
Will he make the team? I think there's legitimate questions where Watkins makes the team with some of the young fellas.
Agreed. Randall Cobb, obviously.
Probably makes the team because he's butt buddies with
great mates with 12, but friends, so. I don't think he's going to be wide receiver 1. I think the Lizard, Alan Lazard, is a steal there if you can pick him up in, say, the 9th or 10th.
Yeah, agree. So, and then Gabriel Davis, go back to him. He's going in the 70s, an 8th-ish kind of round pick, and wide receiver 2 at the Bills. He's going to have huge volume come his way for when they play. So Emmanuel Sanders is going to take a back steep. Cole Beasley's gone. So Gabriel Davis is going to take a big leap in his second year as well, I'd say.
Did he catch 4 touchdowns in a game last year, Gabriel Davis?
Potentially.
I think there was a game where he went absolutely wild.
Maybe a game that Diggs missed.
Possibly.
So the talent's there. He's got great size, and if Josh Allen stays healthy all year, he's going to get again a lot of ball. So you just see across the board, all the way down in the 10th round, there's wide receivers you can pick. So
depth.
Much depth. Some sneaky maybe left field sleepers. Julio Jones is going in the 160s, which is almost to undrafted territory. We'll have to see if he makes the team, but I think he should. Godwin's coming back from the injury. Gage had a hurt hamstring, but it was day to day, so he might, sneak into that role.
Not just
I think he
might be wide receiver 2 on day 1,
which is potential. So Tom Brady, what was it? Threw the most touchdowns and the most yards last year. Like that volume's going to go somewhere, and. He really wanted
future Hall of Famer.
Really wanted Julio there in Tampa, and he's got his man. Let's see what it turns into. So huge still late there in the 160s. AJ Green's an interesting one. He's 200 plus. I think it was even 250s. Like it was really late.
How? That's ridiculous.
But the question becomes, could he be wide receiver 1 in that team? No Hopkins for 6 weeks.
Brown had the driving indiscretion.
Who knows what happens with Brown? Whether he'll be available week 1, and then got Isabella Moore behind him. Do they take the step? So they're resting him. Like he's not going to play preseason. He's a vet there. Potentially he could get a lot of volume to start the season before those guys get back available. It'll be really interesting to see. So I think AJ Green is a sneaky late one potentially there.
I love that. I love both Julio and AJ Green there as late round steals. They're both, talented guys, well proven in the NFL. Guys that are sort of a little bit unproven. Who's going to be the number 1 at the Kansas City Chiefs, catching balls from arguably the best quarterback in football? Yeah,
and Micah Hardman is there. Incumbent was, I guess, wide receiver 2.
Behind Tyreek. Didn't have numbers that
not huge numbers, but
bring the house down. But for his ADP, you don't mind it.
Yeah, well, he's going 160s at the moment, but you have to ask. You pointed it out there. Who's going to be wide receiver 1? They've got Juju and MVS, who are both ahead of Hardman, and then they've got Sky Moore, so who's the rookie. And those 4 essentially are their 4 wide receivers. That's how they've listed them in the depth chart. They've got wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, and they kind of break it down with the 2 of them there. Does Hardman if MVS is the deep threat, is Juju going to be the wide receiver one? I don't know. I kind of don't see it. Needs a bounce back year, has been hurt. Both of those guys going ahead of Hardman. Hardman maybe is the incumbent, has good chemistry there. But training camp's all been about Sky Moore. So Sky Moore might sneak in. I think all three of those are going ahead of Hardman. But, well, again, watch preseason. Check it out, see what it looks like. I'd be interested to know if Hardman had any numbers today from that game. And what that looks like in the preseason.
It might be the hardest to predict wide receiver room in the NFL.
Yeah, with so much upside with the quarterback.
So much upside. Obviously, they're going to be wide receiver 2 behind Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
But a lot of potential for one of these guys, perhaps, underrated.
And I said before, Tyreek Hill was wide receiver 6, 111 receptions, I think, last year.
There's no reason why that can't be Mecole Hardman. Similar kind of player, in fast and shifty. You saw what Juju did a few years ago. A lot of people might have had him in your top 15 wide receivers just a few years ago in the NFL. Can he, reignite his career as a Chief? Catching balls from Patrick Mahomes, who knows?
Yeah, definitely.
Anyone of note? Sky Moore played a lot yesterday, didn't he?
Yeah. So just on Hardman real quick, he got one target. Ran it for 9 yards, or caught it for 9 yards.
One reception. Yeah.
Sky Moore had 3 targets, average 7.7, total 23 yards.
No Juju, no MVS?
MVS had 2 targets, caught one for 11 yards, and no Juju. From
I think Juju's still coming back from injury. And then, by the sounds of that, those target numbers, I'd say Hardman and MVS started with Mahomes, and then probably went off when Mahomes finished as well.
Yep.
But Moore would have played more. And I guess that's the list of what I had. Did you guys have any other wide receivers that jumped out that we may not have mentioned here? Because there is a lot.
Did we talk about DJ Moore, Carolina?
No, we didn't. But again, another guy, quarterback situation.
He's going to be massive. Did we talk about Mike Williams? Chargers.
As another good wide receiver too. No, but we talked about Allen as the volume there, and I think he's a touchdown machine. So
we spoke about T. Higgins being maybe the best wide receiver too in the NFL. I think Mike Williams might have something to say about that. A lot of kudos around the Chargers offense and under Justin Herbert. I think Mike Williams might be someone to throw a bit of your draft stock.
Of those two going there, you'd pick Mike Williams over DJ Moore.
Yeah, that's just quarterback related.
That's
just quarterback
It is
related.
a wide receiver 2 over a wide receiver 1, but from what we've seen, a few air balls from Baker, Mayfield, Sam Darnold, the same. They just haven't looked great over there in Panthers world. So we'll have to see what it looks like.
Adam Thielen last year he was very touchdown dependent.
Injured a fair bit too.
Yeah, so maybe a little bit of a downturn from him, but again,
I'm avoiding.
You're avoiding?
Yeah, I do like the new Rams offense system they're going to be running over there with their former OC as their head coach now. But I'm just waiting on Thielen. I want to see more before I commit.
Hunter Renfrow? Raiders, massive year last year. Obviously, they bring in a guy called Devontae Adams. Might take a little bit of his shine away.
Yeah, and Waller has been hurt again, so I think he's got minor hamstring issues, which might help Hunter Renfrow for value. But I just think the way that new offensive scheme though as well. Josh McDaniels is over there. We'll have to see what that looks like.
I think he gets a ton of ball and is a steal there at 41st ADP for receivers.
The risk is that he won't. Maybe he gets a ton of ball, but the Raiders lacked touchdowns through the air last year, and we'll have to see. And if they get more, maybe a lot of that goes to Adams and a healthy Waller. So we'll have to see. He should still get a lot of volume.
The last one I want to ask you about, Christian Kirk got that big deal for, I think, 3rd highest paid receiver in the league this year at Jacksonville. His ADP is 42 amongst receivers. And
I think anyone that picked Jacksonville wide receivers last year will feel will understand.
No guarantee.
Yeah. He's like, we need, there was other problems there, but we'll need Lawrence to probably take another step before you commit to any of those, especially that high. Yes, he got paid, but I don't think he was he was second fiddle to Hopkins for a very long time. And Hopkins, even though he's got a 6-week ban, I think still floating around in that 40 to 50s kind of range.
Yep.
So, and he'll walk back into as a wide receiver 1 in that team.
100, future Hall of Famer. Marks, anyone didn't cover?
Not really. Pretty happy with that. I think. Do you reckon Chase Claypool would be someone to watch? Probably not in the draft, but
I'd
through
say
the season.
I'd say no.
No,
he has been hurt. George Pickens is where it's at.
Yeah, the rookie.
Yeah, okay.
Rookie.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in some kind of keeper setup.
Yeah.
He's been blown away training camp. He could be the next, big Steelers wide receiver, and they go through him pretty quick, and they draft him. Draft in the good guys, pump out the old vets, and they do that quite regularly. So, I think George Pickett fits that mold as the next big thing in Steelers Nation.
Here's the take-home message: we're nearly down to the 50th projected receiver to go in this draft. There's not much running back depth. There's a lot of receiver depth. You probably need to get some good running backs early, and then you can take a bit of a punt, perhaps, with your receivers later on.
Yeah.
Agreed?
You pick running back 1, 2, maybe even third round, and then you just pick wide receivers for the next 10.
Yep.
You're probably going to hit a few of those darts are probably going to land.
That's right.
And you're going to get value.
And your quarterback is Brucey from the longest yard. I knew I shouldn't have had that popcorn.
You can take Matthew Stafford late in the late.
I agree.
Yeah, there's lots of ways of strategy to structure it, but overall, there's lots and lots of depth in the wide receiver rooms because of the amount of talent that has been coming out from the last 3 drafts.
Let's go. We're nearly at real football games. Only a few weeks to wait. That'll bring us into our On The Esky final round. Ding, ding. Okay, so a little bit of UFC news first. So Jared Cannonier coming off that loss to Israel Adesanya. He's going to fight Sean Strickland. UFC 283, is this confirmed?
And Strickland coming off that loss to Pereira as well, so who are going to fight for the belt. So both middleweights trying to regain their momentum in the middleweight division. I'm not sure of the UFC. I knew it was towards the end of the year. Was it 283 or is it a different one?
283 is upcoming, nothing announced. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, nothing announced for 283.
Yeah, maybe it's too far away. Because I think it said October, which is actually
would be
earlier than 283. That'd be like 280, 281.
Maybe just search Cannonier Strickland.
And
Glover Teixeira and Yuri Prochazka going to run it back.
It looks like that's confirmed, and that's going to be at UFC 282, which I think's December.
So much. That's so cool. Like that's one of the all-time fights in UFC history. I think it's running it straight back, and fair enough too.
Yeah, it makes sense. Teixeira was winning that fight. Would have won it if they'd gone the next minute into judges' decisions. But then there really hasn't been anything else in that division kind of take another step up to I think does Jan fight soon? I think.
Blachowicz.
Yeah, Blachowicz. I think he's got a fight coming up. And then that's probably to get him back in that conversation, and that will then be who he'll get to. Well, if he wins, he'll get the winner of this.
Yep, fair. Did you get a date or an event for that Cannonier Strickland?
It's in the works, but they're looking at it's looking for it to be the main event for UFC Fight Night event on 15th of October.
Yeah, in October. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
at the October.
Just around the corner.
Do you have Jan's opponent?
I'm bringing that up now.
Working overtime.
It is.
Yep.
Not getting paid overtime, right?
I'm probably on the wrong website as well.
Anyway, UFC ESPN San Diego was today. Two good fights in this one with the featherweights and bantamweights being the co-main events. What did you see, Beppy?
Yeah, I watched this Nate Landwehr, David Anama fight as the co-main between two featherweights who just exchanged bombs for 3 rounds. The commentators were hammering it up. They were saying it's the fight of the summer. It's, one of the all-time UFC fights. maybe a little bit overs. However, that said, was an excellent
It's still
fight.
an excellent fight.
The crowd loved it. They exchanged big time, and there was a lot of speculation as to the result. So one judge scored at 28-28 draw, and then two judges went 29-27 to Landveer. Essentially, the first two rounds was just unloading can of whoop ass on David Onama, and then Onama rocked him and nearly knocked him out in the third, but Landveer lucky enough to hold on. He's a bit of a showman, he's
Great promo afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. He's probably not doing too much in the featherweight division as a 34-year-old moving forward, but a really entertaining fight. Check out the highlights of that if you didn't see it. And then the big draw card in this one was Marlo Chito Vera taking on Dominic Cruz. Chito Vera stringing together a pretty nice resume of late. He's fighting a lot. He's been fighting pretty much 3-4 fights a year for the last few years.
Yep.
And that kick, it broke Dominic Cruz's nose. I think you can see the nose move sideways with the connection and dropped him in the third round. Moving forward, I think Chito really establishing himself there.
Yeah, I think he scored
as
for
a bantamweight. Yeah,
for a championship fight, and that bantamweight division's
he's definitely going close.
Very, very hot.
Definitely going close. And then Dominic Cruz.
Well, he's fifth, so you've got Pillashaw's 2, Sterling.
You're calling it Pillashaw these days.
Yeah, Sterling's 1, and then I think Sean O'Malley's not ranked, but he's got Yarn who's 3.
Yeah,
that's upcoming.
No, well, Sean O'Malley is ranked these days, but
yes, but he's not ranked 4. Is what I'm getting.
Correct. So you're right. Yarn 1, Pillashaw 2, Jose Aldo, who we'll see next week. We'll talk about him in a second. Corey Sandhagen, maybe that makes sense, and Chito Vera 5. But he's demolished a lot of his opponents of late. Marlon Chito Vera.
Yeah, he's definitely in title contention.
Got the country of Ecuador behind him, and then moving, towards a possible title fight moving forward. Poor Dominic Cruz. He looked a little bit slow. He looked like
he looked pretty good. Like he looked on song for his ability to land, but he was just. Just didn't have the power.
Chin was concerned?
Yeah, Chin was concerned. Every time Vera landed a power shot, like he sat him in the chair, as they were saying on commentary. So, which is unfortunate. Like, it's pretty impressive for Cruz, who was the best bantamweight in the world in 2010, to still be going around.
Probably in the UFC Hall of Fame moving forward.
Yes, held that belt for a long time. Had at least 3 major injuries at separate times and missed a lot of his career, unfortunately. But still ranked 8th, still bringing it to top contenders, top ranked fighters. The division's probably passed him a little bit, unfortunately.
As a 37-year-old, that's fair. Does he retire moving forward? There wasn't anything formally after the fight to
getting head kicked in the face and breaking your nose. Probably not a great time for retirement, but we'll see. He'll go back to commentary. He's excellent in commentary, and we'll see what that looks like going forward.
And we've got a massive UFC 278 next week. The pound-for-pound champ, Kamaru Usman, going for his 6th title defence against Leon Edwards in the welterweight division. Leon Edwards hasn't fought since that war against Nate Diaz in June of last year, in where we saw Leon Edwards towel him up for 4 rounds, and then Nate Diaz nearly one of the turnarounds of UFC history. What do we think going forwards here? Usman probably on paper too strong for Leon Edwards, but
if he's been wrestling his brother at all, then yes, definitely. So,
we spoke about his brother last week.
He's a big boy, so I think Edwards. I guess he's got preference for wrestling. That'll in the welterweight. They all have a very good wrestling background. That usually cancels themselves out, and I just don't think Edwards has it on the feet for Usman. I think Usman's definitely taking that step forward, and not to completely write him off and say he's going to shit the bed, but I just think it's Usman fight to lose.
Yep, it's a tough ask going against the pound for pound champion of the UFC, a bloke that's already defended his title 6 times and is making a case to be the best welterweight of all time. Our friends, unofficial sponsors at Sportsbet, have Kamaru Usman at $1.28, Leon Edwards $3.74.
Fair. Very fair there, I'd say.
Paulo Costa makes his return to the octagon after, actually both these fighters on 2 lost slides. Costa being the 6th ranked middleweight, obviously, fallen from grace since that Israel Adesanya fight. And Luke Rockhold, who went up to light heavyweight, actually lost to that man, Jan Blachowicz, that we were just talking about before, and also Yoel Romero, coming back down to middleweight, obviously.
Where he won the belt, of course.
Won the belt, an old head, a very talented fighter, going up against Paulo Costa. How do we see this one playing out?
If Costa doesn't hit the goon bag, he'll win this.
It's gone from he was a bit tired to it was a nice drop of red to it was goon of fortune. Goon of fortune. The excuses that man made after that fight, they make one question probably, attitude, maybe even character.
Yeah, I think overall talent and ability, he should probably knock out Rockhold. I just don't think Rockhold's got the chin anymore.
How old is Luke Rockhold, if you wouldn't mind?
He's not the oldest, but he's
Paulo
been around
Costa is pretty much prime in terms of age.
I'd say mid-30s for Rockhold.
Always in impeccable shape. Yeah, how old's Luke Rockhold?
37.
Yeah, it's getting on, isn't it?
Yeah.
We just
I
saw
think it's almost a similar situation as Cruz.
we just saw a 37-year-old, ex-champ.
And Rockhold hasn't fought since 2019 as well in the UFC.
3 years, if you wouldn't mind. Between drinks, it's a tall order. Obviously, we've seen strange results, happen, but you'd think Paulo Costa has the advantage here in this one. Odds, according to our good friends at Sportsbet, pretty similar to the main event. Paulo Costa $1.37, Luke Rockhold $3.11. This is an interesting one. The third ranked Jose Aldo going up against Merab Vashishvili. I was practicing that one before. Don't know if I got it, but let's go with it. Georgian Merab in the bantamweight division. 35-year-old Jose takes on Merab after Merab's gone on a streak, 7 fight win streak, going up against another former champ in Jose Aldo. What do we see here? Aldo, 35 years of age, I believe, so not quite as old, but still, on probably the wrong side of the hill, up against an up and comer in Merab.
Yeah, I'd want Aldo to win because it's probably his last chance at another title fight. Being in the third, if he wins, he definitely puts himself in that conversation. Whether they'll give him Ferreira first, I don't know, but I think that definitely puts him in a potential getting the winner of Dillashaw and Sterling.
Agreed. Maybe a little bit of favouritism shown towards Jose Aldo if he was able to win this one based on prior achievements in the UFC. The odds in this one will be interesting. I would think maybe kind of 50-50 kind of fight.
You got Aldo's record there, James? I think he's only lost in title fights recently.
It's not many. And the bookies are pretty close as well. Vashishvili, $1.82 to Jose Aldo's $2.02. Obviously, the closest odds in this main card.
So I'm just having a look. So he lost to Peter Yan for the vacant belt. Title fight. He did lose to Marlon Moraes on his bantamweight debut. And he also lost to Volkanovski
back in May of 2019.
Yeah.
But he beat Chito Vera back in December 2020. So I don't know if he wins this fight. It
doesn't make sense to do him again.
Yeah, exactly. Does he have to get him again? Him being a lower ranked opponent, you'd think maybe not.
No, and with TJ's fighting the champion and Jan's got a dance card already with Sean O'Malley. It makes sense.
If Aldo wins his title fight,
title fight.
Yeah, that's
and
the way it looks.
Potentially maybe the last one for him.
Yep. Again, he seems like he should be older than 35, considering the career achievements, but he is only 35, so still might have a little bit of fight left in him. The other main card fights in this one. Marcin Tybura taking on Alexander Romanov in the heavyweight division, and Tyson Pedro fighting Harry Hunsucker in the light heavyweight. We'll be on a Bucks party, boys. Let's go. Sunday. It's in Salt Lake City. So for those wondering about
The Bucks party.
Oh, Salt Lake City. Let's go. Bunch of Mormons fucking partying. It's not even winter time. There's fuck all to do there. The Jazz aren't playing. No, I think Wollongong might be more fun. Anyways, for those that are wondering about times and that, it's very similar to a Vegas card. So main card kicking off about midday Australian Eastern, and the main events around maybe 2:30.
That's it. I've just noticed on the prelim as well, Francisco, I'm not sure if I got that right, Figueredo is fighting younger brother of...
Younger brother of Deveson.
Figgy's little brother.
Flyweight, same division?
Yes.
That's same division? Imagine that. Imagine brothers fighting each other.
Yeah, same division.
That's wild. That's wild. Surely you get to a point where you're like, all right, you got to fucking put on 10 pounds to fuck up.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever happened in the UFC because the Nog brothers are the only ones I can remember, and they were different divisions.
And we're talking
they
about...
didn't ever fight each other in pride.
Well, we were talking about the Usman brothers last week as well. They're in different...
Very different divisions.
Diaz brothers.
Diaz brothers.
Ooh, Diaz brothers are close in division, but they never fought each other. No. They've probably fought each other plenty of times outside of the ring. So.
I'd say so. I reckon there might have been a bit of sparring between those two.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
The other little bit of news if you will. Paddy the Baddie Pimlet, about 200 pounds weighing in. We were talking pre-show about sustainability and a bloke that likes to fight and train and a bloke that likes to have a beer and enjoy his success. Do we see him moving forward in that division? Still unranked, living that kind of lifestyle, liking to live up, and revel in his success, and then hit camps and knuckle down.
Yeah, well, it's not an issue currently, but it's been 2 weeks and he's
winning fights.
Technically put on 55 pounds. We think it's probably more
caveats. Yeah, his walk around weight probably more like 170, 175. Maybe enjoying himself.
Weight,
a little bit of bloat weight. You can lose that pretty quickly. Speaking from personal experience,
quick visit to the dunny. So
that's right. Yeah, a little bit of a bit of fluid maybe rolling around there. But we saw this last time after he won. Went out, enjoyed his pints. Celebrated. As a Scouser should, and then hits the camp and drops the weight. But yeah, maybe a little bit of question around. Is that the way that an elite athlete treats it? I think the counterpoint to that is Tyson Fury.
Yeah,
like we're talking about possibly one of the best heavyweight boxers of all time.
But he's in an unranked
position.
I think they have a limit of how they got to be like over a certain weight. They go,
in terms of they're blowing out too much.
Yeah.
But you also think about boxing, and
True.
Most boxers
but
if chiseled and not having
But if Tyson wants to fight at 400 pounds, he can. Whereas Paddy has to come down and hit 155.
Okay.
So,
I think fucking good on him. It's only going to make him more likable, isn't it?
Exactly.
That's it. So, while he can, he might as well fight and enjoy fighting.
Yeah,
it's probably that he fluctuates in weight a little bit. Then
exactly. Come back in 5 years and let's see if it's an issue. So.
Yeah, like you said before, like it's the sustainability of it. Can he do that when he's 27 now? Can he do that when he's 32?
37.
Yeah,
exactly. It's interesting, but it's just an interesting point.
Speaking of Fury, did you see during the week that he travelled across to Iceland to try and call out Thor the Mountain Bjornsson in a boxing match?
Big money fight again. Not that Thor Eddie Hall fight, probably not that impressive, especially for boxing aficionados, which we are not. I don't know. I think Tyson's maybe looking for a few money fights here. For me,
he doesn't have a dance partner at the moment. So
Ngannou would be fun. Ngannou would be fun.
Yes.
I'd much rather see that than a Game of Thrones actor. Even though he is fucking huge.
There's
a reason why he's
strong man. But yeah.
But the headline of the story was Thor Bjornsson wasn't even in the country, so they just hit up the pub.
Sang Sweet Caroline and smashed whatever drinks they drink in Iceland.
That's it.
he'd be a bit of fun to hang out with, Tyson Fury. That is for sure. Yeah. Tyson Fury to Paul Gallen, pretty good segue there.
Equivalence.
I would say. And this has serious WWE vibes, serious tag team, serious gimmick vibes.
100%.
Paul Gallen to fight Justin Hodges and Ben Hannant on the same night. What are our thoughts on this? Is this the state that Australian boxing is in at the moment? That we're going to do a 2v1, obviously not at the same time, maybe some kind of tag team iteration.
Yeah, well, I assume one's the main event. So I think Hodges did beat Hannant a couple months ago. So
Hannant gets first dibs.
Is that the question? Or do they do Hodges first and then he has, get the main event out of the way just in case, God forbid, Hannant knocks him out?
Imagine that. Then what do they do?
Yeah. So do they do Hodges first? They have that fight, and then Gallen, if he's good to go, will then just have a cool down fight with Hannant. Like
Round Robin is the only way to
if whoever wins the first one, do they then take on the second?
Round Robin with a Hodges Hannant fight. I don't know. It's a bit on the nose for me.
Stupid.
It's obviously, trying to get people to talk about it and interested in it. That's what we're doing.
The UFC in the late 90s figured out this is a problem. You can't do this because, they'd have guys fight and then they'd, get banged up and then they'd have to bring in replacement fighters. So by the end of the night for the tournament would be like 2 replacement fighters fighting. So, it's just no good. Not a good idea.
Screams gimmick.
Well, they couldn't get the SBW fight, so they wanted this.
Interested to see how it plays out.
Yeah, exactly.
Have we got dates confirmed? Have they locked this in or have they just announced
October?
it?
Yeah, Monks, you can find that for us.
When in doubt, just go October,
It's not too far away, I believe. I think they want to do it while... September. Yeah, they want to do it while the football season's still going.
We got a date?
Roughly.
I think so. I think it's 15th of September.
15th September. Fucking soon, really.
Yeah, and then I think all 3 of them will probably hang up their gloves after that.
Wild. Again, can't be mad. Hate the game, not the player. Get that bag. It's going to be interesting to see how that eventuates, the old tag team boxing.
Who was fighting Mark Hunt? One of them was fighting Mark Hunt coming up.
Mark Hunt must be getting on.
He is, but one of them, someone's fighting Mark Hunt in a boxing match. I saw that a couple of weeks ago. I actually thought it was Justin Hodges, so I don't...
I think that was rumoured. I'm not sure if anything...
Maybe?
Mark Hunt is old, dude.
He's in his 40s, but yeah.
He's 48.
Yeah.
I think it was the SBW. They were trying to line Mark Hunt up as like a fight. But I was sort of like...
I don't know.
That's
Did
never
someone
going to
click news? Is there any recent news in there?
I don't know, but here's the news. I don't want to watch 48-year-olds fucking box. Sit on a beach, have a beer, man. Having said that, like maybe one of the strongest chins of all time.
Yes. And, absolute hammers in his hands. So
big time.
Anything there?
Report is that it is Sonny Bill Williams.
There you go. Sonny Bill Williams is going to duck Gallen and fight Mark Hunt. Yeah, I did remember that.
That's wild.
Very wild.
Boxing is in some kind of
That's
state.
right. Buzz broke the news.
Yeah. Buzz.
Yeah.
Buzz. Welcome back to 360 this week, Buzz.
I don't know. And there's talk that SBW ducked Gallen, but maybe Gallen was ducking SBW, so that's why he's gone, I'll beat one of your former opponents better than you did, and then try to build that storyline.
I'd like to wrap up this segment by saying I don't want to fight any of you. And, hats off to you for getting your money.
Yes, exactly.
F1, it is the off season.
Let's finish with F1.
What's going on with Danny Rick?
Quick notes. We covered off all the hoopla and that with Alpine and McLaren last week. By all accounts, it sounds like Danny Rick has made his clause or what he wants to get out of his contract known, which is $21 million in USDs because the contract's in his favour for options. So you say, give me that money and I will leave McLaren. And sounds like everything's been signed off for Oscar between Alpine and McLaren for him. So that move looks like it's going to happen. They haven't announced anything. It sounds like when Danny Rick finds a seat and they sort out his payout, they'll then announce the drivers for who's sitting where. But all accounts, it looks like Oscar and Ricardo will switch seats for next year. So Ricardo to Alpine for Alonso's seat, and Oscar not taking that seat and going and taking Danny's. We'll have to see how that goes going forward, but that's current rumours for there. But yeah, big money. That's huge money for Danny to then do nothing. I think it works out if Alpine say pay him 10 mil, then that 10 mil gets taken off his 21. They're essentially paying some of his payout for McLaren. So
it's interesting, sort of for Danny Rick, sort of going back to Alpine, formerly Renault.
Yeah, new team principal though. They got Otmar there, who's come across from Aston Martin. So. Yeah, it's different situations. But yeah, Alpine's looked real bad and all of this. They've kind of had the rug pulled from underneath them.
Yeah. That being said, Car's still looking good. So still giving him, Danny Rick, a good chance to compete. Probably not for championships or anything like that, but
arguably they've had better results throughout the season. So yeah, we'll have to see what that looks like next season. And the only other motorsport news we had was the Formula E had an 8-car crash. A bit of rain and they couldn't take the corner, so they all ran into each other.
Canberra drivers, shout out.
Yeah, pretty much. And one car ended on top of the other one. So I think the driver of that car came out and said, thanks to the halo again, otherwise I'd be shorter than I currently am.
So where's the Formula E at? Is this like...
It's
third division or
the E stands for electronic, so they're the electric Formula cars. So yes, so this is I'd say it's almost the equivalent F2. So F2 is F1, F2, probably Formula E. But yeah,
they're all battery powered.
Yes, all battery powered cars, and did lose all the traction, and then all ended up in the barrier.
The Prius has taken on the Teslas.
Yes.
This looks like you ever go to the fucking Canberra show or Easter show, and you got to go pick your Dodgem car at the start, and they're all stuck in the. That's what it looks like. That's what it looks like.
So, a little bit of rain, and they had all wet tires, and obviously couldn't make the corner and all in the barrier. But it was more funny scenes than a big crash.
Oh, bloody oath. Yeah, no one hurt. I must say, if this is the future of motoring, then let's keep polluting the fucking ozone because this is dismal. This is real dismal.
That was all the memes that came out during the week.
Yeah, electric powered.
Yeah, F1's the pinnacle, and FE essentially is the future, and then hold my beer neck minute, put them all in the wall. But anyway,
should be FF for failed.
Yes, in this regard, definitely does. And that's motorsport, and I think that's potty done as well.
That's us. That's us done for 2 weeks. As mentioned, the boy down the end of the table, joining the club, putting a ring on it. We're going to go celebrate next weekend. We'll catch you in 2 weeks. That will be AFL.
Week 1 of finals.
It'll be the week off. It'll be the week off. It'll be
last round of NRL.
Last round of NRL. It'll be leading into the last round of NRL. We'll be just around the corner for the NFL.
Yeah, last preseason round.
That's it. I don't know. That's no more else to report.
Yeah, big results from UFC, etc.
UFC
F1 race
should be back that weekend.
Yes.
Has got the BBL draft.
BBL draft, let's go. That'll be that day. BBL draft.
Hopefully some cricket.
A few platinum players. That's about it. Thank you to anyone that is listening to the Esky this week. We will see you in a couple weeks' time. Hope you're having a good week wherever you are. Your week gutter dogs.
Good.
Etc.
Bye.
Bye.